Chapter 721 Underworld Godly Monarch. As this shadow appeared, the spirit force between heaven and earth began to riot wildly. A long river of the underworld meandered and twisted, flowing slowly through the air, accompanied by darkness and cold. The entire sky instantly turned dim, becoming bleak and desolate, with the sunset completely disappearing. Within the underworld river, black petals floated down from the sky. In just an instant, tens of thousands of petals fell. The people of God Demon City looked up at the sky. Someone trembled and said, 10,000 lotuses descend from the sky. This is the arrival of a godly monarch. I wonder which great one has come. Why would they come to God Demon City? God Demon City had stood for countless years, and those who came here were mostly powerful figures from various domains. Even grand Empyreans could be found here. But when it came to a being like a godly monarch, everyone had to be extremely cautious. The southern region, such a vast land occupying nearly 1/4 of the ancient continent, had birthed fewer than 5 godly monarchs. In the end, only the eternal godly monarch truly left a legacy. At this moment in the sky, the underworld river flowed with a rustling sound. In the distance, a large group of small black dots appeared. As the black dots grew closer, the crowd could see clearly. They were a group of powerful figures walking on air. These people wore black-purple robes, and each one emitted an intense aura. Even the weakest among them had reached the fusion heaven realm, and several were grand Empyreans. At the center of this group, the underworld river transformed into a mat. A woman sat on the mat, eyes closed, indifferent to the outside world. Yet even surrounded by grand Empyreans, she gave off the impression of being the most terrifying of them all. There from the underworld, someone said cautiously upon seeing the formation. When did God Demon City offend the underworld? In this era, who would dare offend the underworld? The underworld godly monarch hasn't yet crossed the immortal Tao bridge. With him overseeing things, and the underworld staying hidden for so long with few clansmen active outside, there hasn't even been a chance to offend them. Yet no matter how the people of God Demon City speculated, it was all in vain. The oppressive aura from the underworld's arrival above left everyone afraid to make a move. Azure God, you came but don't show yourself? Do you want me to come greet you? The woman on the underworld mat spoke slowly, her voice echoing through the heavens. Of course not, of course not. I've just arrived. Came an old voice from the other side of the clouds. An elderly man riding backward on a blue ox, holding a book, appeared at the edge of the sky, chuckling. At first glance, he still seemed far away, his figure blurred. But within a few breaths, the old man had already appeared above God Demon City. Underworld godly monarch, why such a temper? The old man said with a smile, closing his book. He had a head full of white hair, and his temples were speckled with gray. His eyebrows were especially long, also white, and he wore a light-colored coarse robe, giving off the air of a hermit or an immortal sage. Riding backward on the blue ox, his aura wasn't heavy. Instead, it felt light and carefree. Azure God? Which Azure God is that? Someone below asked in confusion. Seems to be a very ancient race. A godly monarch from the Tsang clan long ago. Someone who knew a bit speculated. Didn't expect him to still be on the Eternal Lands and not have gone to the immortal Tao bridge. Aren't you planning to give me an explanation for this matter? The woman from the underworld asked. My personal arrival is the explanation, the old man replied with a smile. The one who killed my descendant, she asked. He's in the God-Demon battlefield. My Tsang clan's altar of all living beings has locked onto him. Don't worry, he won't escape, Azure God replied. To the God-Demon battlefield, the woman said calmly. My Tsang clan hasn't appeared in the world for a long time. Do people think they can forget about us? Today will serve as a warning to all. Even if I one day cross the immortal Tao bridge, no one will dare touch anyone from my underworld. Inside the God-Demon battlefield, when Su Zimo and the other two emerged, the remnants hiding there didn't even dare show their heads. After sending the seven-face infernal archon to retrieve his seven-face lotus from the Bone Mountain, Su Zimo and his companions began walking toward the ancient demon race's sacred land. That sacred land used to be the home of the ancient demon race, but after the devastating war where many demons perished, no one knew what became of it. Upon arriving at the ancient demon race's territory, Su Zimo found it engulfed in darkness. The ground beneath was crimson, and dark demonic clouds hovered above. The land was filled with active volcanoes. The entire area was scorched and battered by frequent eruptions. Few now came here, though a few resilient demon trees still grew. Occasionally, black vultures flew by with shrill, unpleasant cries, landing on the demon trees, their eyes watching passers-by with cold malice. "Master, it's just up ahead." The bone demon pointed toward a volcano in the distance. After walking for more than 10 minutes, they arrived at the volcano that seemed ready to erupt at any moment. The massive volcano looked like a giant beast bearing its fangs and claws. Black smoke rose like war plumes into the sky. The volcano glowed crimson, and approaching it one could feel the searing heat. Up close, even space itself seemed to melt. The bone demon stepped in front of the volcano, forming seals with both hands. It looked like some ancient sealing technique. A character meaning demon flew from his hands and sank directly into the volcano. Immediately after, the volcano erupted violently with a thunderous roar. It felt as if some great terror was brewing inside. Before them, a spatial gate appeared. The three of them stepped into the gate and seemed to enter the interior of the volcano. What greeted them was an endless sea of magma. The molten lava could melt steel instantly. At temperatures of tens of thousands of degrees, normal people wouldn't survive. In this magma sea, a narrow path extended deep into the interior. Flames spouted on both sides, forming dragon-shaped waves that swam through the magma. "You picked quite a place," Su Zimo remarked. "It wasn't exactly our choice. The ancestral tree was left here long ago, so we built our sacred land around it," the bone demon explained. To hide the ancestral tree, Lord Sevenface even moved this volcano here for cover. "No one's come for a long time," the Seven-Face Infernal Archon said wistfully. He seemed to have changed faces again, now looking quite serious. The three of them followed the narrow path across the magma, walking deeper. The magma sea was quite vast. After crossing it, they arrived at a pitch-black alley. They walked through it, finding countless roads inside, crisscrossing and interwoven. Even if someone made it past the magma, they would easily get lost in this place. Chapter 722. Let's go create a golden age. After exiting the maze of crisscrossing alleys, the view ahead gradually opened up. Su Zimo stared intently straight ahead. In the open space in front of him, there was a deep and boundless demonic pool. It seemed that after tens of thousands of years of erosion, the demonic energy within the pool had thinned to the point of near invisibility. Some clear water gently rippled around a massive tree. Everyone's eyes were drawn to this tree. The tree's height was nearly equal to that of the volcano. It had grown all the way up to the volcano's peak, and its entire body was pitch black. The thick trunk of the demon tree was covered in densely packed ancient demon race characters. These characters glowed amidst the red-hot lava of the volcano. The demon tree was lush and sprawling. Its branches filled the entire space, as if the inside of the volcano had been hollowed out by them. The tree's leaves were oval-shaped, and each one burned with a faint black flame. Within these flames came harsh sounds of struggling. It seemed that each leaf represented a life. "Thankfully, the ancestral tree is fine." The bone demon breathed a sigh of relief. Su Zimo stepped forward slowly, walking across the open lava-covered ground ahead. The seven-face infernal archon and bone demon remained behind and did not follow. As Su Zimo stepped closer, it seemed this demon tree had been asleep for a very long time. Its drooping branches that touched the ground began to tremble, swaying slightly. At a certain moment, all the branches erupted in motion, and the leaves on the tree all began to glow. Towering demonic energy swirled, and the once clear pool below instantly turned dark again. The calm water surface began to boil, ripples spreading underfoot. Su Zimo walked across the water surface, step by step, until he stood before the demon tree. He reached out his right hand and touched the now slightly withered trunk. The bark felt cold and rough. The demonic characters on the trunk all began to tremble, emitting a radiant light that enveloped Su Zimo. "Master, go! This world has no place for us!" A shout echoed in his ears. Before his eyes, fragmented and broken scenes flashed repeatedly. "We were born free. Why should this damn world decide whether we're allowed to exist or not? Master, hurry! We'll cover you. The heavenly tribulation is coming. As long as you live, the ancient demon race still has hope. No! Even if I die today, the ancient demon race will endure. One reincarnation later, I shall return. You all wait for that day. Even if this era is destroyed, I will not be. Our race has planned across multiple eras. Why must old villainous heavens meddle in our affairs? I am not willing. When has this cursed sky ever been fair? The world is divided among 9 provinces, ever shifting between unity and division. There are 10 great immortal sects, seated atop fairy mountains and islands, claiming immortals act with compassion to aid all beings. But among these countless immortals, who dares say they are free of evil intent? Who can guarantee that none of them are steeped in evil? Just because they are immortals, they get to stand above us? We demons are born only to be scorned. People claim we are evil, ruthless, and unforgivable. But none of us chose to be born as demons. We too have those who seek peace and kindness. The world makes no distinction between good and evil. If you're a demon, they'll call for your slaughter regardless. Gods or immortals, everyone starts from weakness, crawling through the same mud. Who the hell is more noble than whom? One day, we'll drag these damned heavens off their pedestal and let them taste our pain. Broken scenes of rage, helpless sighs, and bloodied bodies collapsing and rising again played before Su Zimo's eyes. In the beginning of the world, there was no such thing as good or evil. All beings are mixtures of both, some with more good than evil, some with more evil than good. All we demons want is a fair recognition. Why must everyone believe that demon equals evil? Su Zimo muttered to himself. He gently caressed the bark of the sky-shroud demon tree, tears silently rolling down his cheeks. He didn't even feel emotional, but the tears fell uncontrollably. This race, tens of thousands had sacrificed themselves, fighting through era after era, all for the pursuit of one thing, fairness. But it had all been in vain. The prejudice of the world was like a towering mountain. No matter how hard you tried, it could not be moved. The so-called immortals would never let you change how people saw the world. Without demonic evil, how could there be heavenly good? Without evil as contrast, how could good shine? Immortals needed to stand above, so demons had to fall to the dust. If the people won't change, then let's reshuffle the deck. Su Zimo suddenly turned and looked at the 7-face infernal archon. He said, "Let demons rise to the top, to give generously and save the world. And immortals, let them be despised, reviled, full of evil. How about that?" All right. The 7-face infernal archon froze for a moment, then responded after some thought. "But if we do that, how are we any different from those immortals? I suddenly realized, there's no such thing as absolute fairness. Some are born rich, some are born with nothing. Some are whole and healthy, others are disabled from birth. So live selfishly. Make sure you live freely first, then worry about others. Create a relatively fair world," Su Zimo said. "At least, not like this one, where the cursed heavens aid false immortals in destroying our ancient demon race." After saying that, Su Zimo turned and placed his hand on the sky-shroud demon tree. He said softly, "Old friend, you've waited long enough." The tree seemed to understand his words and gently brushed its leaves against Su Zimo's shoulder. The ancestral tree began to shake. The entire volcano began to tremble along with it, cracks splitting open across the earth, and the magma underground went into complete chaos. A cracking sound echoed out. Su Zimo opened a passage to the true fate world and said with a light laugh, "Come with me. I still want another fight with those cursed heavens. Let's go create a golden age for the ancient demon race." The cracks in the ground deepened, and magma erupted completely. The lava turned into a sea of fire, engulfing everything. At that moment outside, thunderous explosions rang out in the sky, as if the heavens were enraged, roaring like thunder. The volcano's peak exploded completely. Flames shot out like meteorites from the crater. The entire land was dyed a fiery red. The ground split, dense black mist spread, and meteors rained from the sky. This volcanic eruption was unimaginably powerful. And at that moment, several figures suddenly appeared in this world. Chapter 723 Buried beneath this demonic soil. Azure God, is this the place? The woman from the underworld asked casually. The old man riding the blue ox looked up, his gaze deep as he stared at this land. Fiery red light lit up the sky, and clusters of molten flames fell through the air. Thunderous explosions interwove with the thick black fog, and the entire world seemed to be turning upside down. The position of the altar of all living beings disappeared here. It should be around this area, Azure God replied. At that moment, many figures flew in from the edge of the sky. At a glance, there were nearly 100 people. And behind them, more were arriving continuously. A godly monarch who hasn't appeared in 10,000 years is here. Something major must have happened in the god-demon battlefield. Who knows? Let's just watch. Even Azure God showed up. 2 godly monarchs in one place. The heavens might just crack open. If some great fortune really appears, even if they get the meat, we might at least get some soup. People around were all whispering. They were all from God-Demon City, including those who came to train in the battlefield. With more and more powerful beings gathering here, many still didn't understand why the godly monarchs had descended. But either way, watching the show couldn't hurt. After all, godly monarchs only appeared once in 10,000 years. Just catching a glimpse was a lifetime dream for many. Ancestor, should we drive these people away? Someone from the underworld asked, eyeing the crowd. Why should we? I came today to seek justice, to give the world a warning. I'm not dead yet. They'd better learn to behave, the woman said coldly. If we drive them off, there'll be no audience. Would I come in person just to kill an ant? Ancestor is right. The man quickly stepped back. He was at the peak of the Fusion Heaven realm, a revered powerhouse in the outside world. But here he was just a minor character. So troublesome, the woman from the underworld said with a hint of impatience. Looking at the erupting volcano in the distance, she waved her right hand and struck with her palm. Spirit force between heaven and earth suddenly rioted, forming a massive palm that covered the sky. The palm fell with immense force and momentum. The volcano, once roaring like a fierce beast, was instantly flattened. A deafening explosion shook the heavens and earth. The crowd watched the vanished volcano and swallowed hard. Silence blanketed the world. Still the same temper. Azure God shook his head and smiled. Strength justifies the temper, the woman sneered. This opponent is no ordinary one. Don't underestimate him, Azure God said, turning to look ahead. The volcano had been leveled, and dust filled the sky. Amid the dust, footsteps suddenly echoed. Even though the distance was great, the soft steps could still be heard clearly, as if resonating across this vast world. Under the escort of the Bone Demon and the Seven-Faced Infernal Archon, Su Zimo stepped out one step at a time. The two made no effort to hide themselves. Seeing them, the crowd erupted in shock. Demons! They're from the ancient demon race. How can that be? Are there still demons alive in this world? No wonder a godly monarch had to come. If the ancient demon race is reborn, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even the woman from the underworld looked slightly serious at the sight of the three. Who sent that palm strike just now? Su Zimo asked calmly, looking at everyone present. "My young friend, don't be angry," Azure God said with a smile. "Who struck just now, step forward. Don't make me repeat myself," Suzimo said flatly, glancing at Azure God. "It was me. So what?" The woman from the underworld snorted coldly. She slowly stood from her mat. The underworld river once again flowed around her in midair. "So what if you're a demon? This is no longer a world ruled by the god and demonic races. You all have to hide like rats. A mere godly monarch dares speak so arrogantly." The seven-face infernal archon sneered. He extended his hand, and the seven-face lotus bloomed in his palm. Each petal reflected the 7 emotions and 6 desires of all beings. Countless grim faces emerged from the lotus. "Stand down," Suzimo waved his hand and said, "I'm not in a good mood right now. I'll clean up this trash myself." He looked up at the underworld godly monarch and said, "Since you insisted I go on a killing spree before I leave, I don't care why you're here, but burying you beneath this demonic land today will be a fitting tribute to it." "Arrogant fool," the woman snorted. Surrounded by the underworld river, she rose into the air, and it transformed into a roaring divine dragon. The dragon charged directly at Suzimo with a deafening roar. Then came a loud explosion, as the underworld river exploded right in front of Suzimo. "Did it hit?" someone murmured. "That easy?" "No, look, what is that?" Another person pointed in horror at the horizon. At that moment, from the spot where the underworld river exploded, a giant figure 100-meter tall rose into the sky. As the dust settled, Suzimo's figure slowly appeared. The power vortex condensed in his body using the heaven-shattering God scripture was spinning wildly. With torrents of heaven-shattering force pouring in, a giant phantom appeared behind Suzimo. The giant slowly stood up, as if emerging from primordial myth. With a furious roar, the heavens shattered, sun and moon reversed, and in an instant, wind and sand surged, covering the sky. As the dragon formed from the underworld river charged again, the giant opened its mouth wide. A massive suction force came from within, directly devouring the underworld river. Seeing her divine dragon devoured, the underworld godly monarch's expression changed. Suzimo continued walking forward, the giant phantom following behind. The blood in his body flowed in reverse, the vortex spun madly, and his power gathered bit by bit. "Underworld palm!" the woman shouted coldly, striking another palm at Suzimo. But with the giant shielding him, the attack did no damage. The underworld godly monarch and Azure God exchanged glances. "Buy me some time," the underworld godly monarch said. She then sat cross-legged in midair. Her aura began surging wildly, as if preparing for something. The old man nodded slightly, raised both hands, and shouted softly, "Azure Sky!" It sounded like an ancient summon. The crowd saw the sky itself grow darker. When they looked up again, it was as if the heavens were falling. "The sky is collapsing," someone cried out in terror. "Suppress him," Azure God shouted again, and boundless might descended toward Suzimo. Chapter 724 Return to Primordial Heartlands. With Azure God's cry of "suppress," it was as if the entire world collapsed. Those watching all around could already feel the pressure, even though the force wasn't aimed at them. "Like a mayfly shattering a tree," Suzimo sneered. "You want to compete with me in strength?" The power vortexes inside him spun rapidly, hundreds of them constantly supplying heaven-shattering power. The giant behind him roared again, and the two raised their arms as if to hold up the sky. The old man's suppressing force paused slightly, then the sound of cracking erupted. Azure God's expression changed. He seemed to suffer a severe blow, coughed up a mouthful of blood, and was sent flying as if struck by a powerful force. How can he be this strong? Azure God was shocked, staring at Suzimo in disbelief. "Continue," Suzimo said calmly. Azure God's face darkened as he glanced at the underworld godly monarch beside him. The woman sat cross-legged in the sky, surrounded by countless ghosts. It was as if she were summoning something from the depths of the underworld. Gritting his teeth, Azure God gathered thick, dark green energy between his hands. From this energy, emerald green vines sprouted. These vines seemed alive, creeping from the ground towards Su Zimo. "That's the vines of all life from the Tsang clan," someone whispered. "What are the vines of all life?" someone nearby asked. "It's a unique cultivation technique of the Tsang clan. Their life source is tied to it," someone replied after thinking for a moment. "Normally, the vines are used for protection. They're vital to the Tsang clan and aren't released lightly." "So that means Azure God's been pushed to the brink? Who is that man exactly?" "The Tsang clan may not be the strongest, but he's still been a godly monarch for a long time, a respectable figure among godly monarchs. How could he be defeated so easily?" The vines of all life spread out, blending into the void. They bound Su Zimo's arms and legs tightly. Azure God knew he couldn't defeat Su Zimo, so his only goal was to buy time for the underworld godly monarch. Su Zimo slowly lifted his foot, but the vines tightened, gripping him firmly. "Are you done yet? I can't hold on much longer," Azure God shouted at the underworld godly monarch. But she seemed to be in a special state and couldn't reply. Su Zimo chuckled. Instead of lifting his own foot, the giant behind him began walking forward. The supposedly unbreakable vines were torn apart instantly, without even a struggle. As the vines of all life snapped, Azure God dropped to one knee. A buzzing filled his mind. These vines were the foundation of his cultivation and his clan's core strength. He hadn't expected Su Zimo to be this strong. Just one break would take decades to recover from. And in the meantime, he was basically as weak as an ordinary man. "Useless." A cold rebuke came from the side. "You're ready." Azure God quickly turned to the underworld godly monarch. The woman's aura had grown terrifying. Countless ghosts floated around her. Behind her, a portal had been forcefully opened, radiating dark light. Within that portal was a terrifying presence. Countless wailing souls could be heard. "My underworld godly art has reached its highest level. I can forcefully connect to the underworld," the underworld godly monarch said coldly. "With the underworld's reflection, as long as it exists, I cannot die." "Are you done playing?" Su Zimo shook his head slightly. The giant behind him roared and raised a foot to stomp on the underworld godly monarch. She retaliated and clashed with the giant. But the gap in strength was too great. She had just come into contact with the heaven-shattering giant when she was instantly obliterated. However, near the rift to the underworld, her figure reappeared. Her face had gone pale, and she looked at the giant in shock. "I had no power to resist at all." Before she could think more, a massive hand fell from the sky. Its reach was so vast that it covered the heavens, leaving no room to escape. The hand grabbed the underworld godly monarch, clutching her like an ant. The heaven-shattering giant squeezed her in his left hand and raised his right to strike the sky. The ghost-filled portal to the underworld was destroyed with one blow. The sky seemed to collapse. Space shattered, and the underworld rift vanished. "You!" The underworld godly monarch looked at Su Zimo with a trembling voice, unable to finish her sentence. "You'll be sealed beneath this demonic land for 10,000 years, suffering until death," Su Zimo said calmly. The heaven-shattering giant punched down, splitting the earth and forming a deep, bottomless pit. He threw the underworld godly monarch into the abyss. Su Zimo waved his right hand. The sky-shroud demon tree from the True Fate world trembled slightly, and a single leaf floated down. A single tree can evolve all things in the world. Su Zimo caught the demonic leaf and tossed it into the pit. As it fell, the leaf transformed into a peerless demon who sat atop the seal. Agonizing screams echoed from the depths. Su Zimo waved again and moved the distant volcano over, using it to seal the pit. Those who had been watching swallowed hard. Not a single person dared speak. "What? Do you want to be sealed along with her?" Su Zimo asked coldly. The spectators quickly shook their heads and fled in all directions, wishing they had 8 legs to run faster. Su Zimo looked at the remnants of the underworld and Azure God. "Kill yourselves. Don't make me dirty my hands," he said. "Spare us, my lord. We only followed our ancestor. We never meant to fight you." The underworld survivors begged for mercy. Azure God gave a bitter smile, looked at Su Zimo, and said, "I accept death. But before I go, may I know your name? So I can die knowing who defeated me. Even if I told you, you wouldn't recognize it. But if you really want to die with clarity, you can call me the Infernal Lord," Su Zimo said. "Infernal Lord," Azure God muttered. "So I was blind all along." He laughed, then self-detonated. His body and soul were obliterated. The bone demon beside him snorted coldly, and a white bone shot from the ground, ending the lives of the remaining underworld remnants. Chapter 725, Order City. How to return to the primordial heartlands had always been a question Su Zimo had pondered. This eternal lands didn't have a void valley capable of tearing space apart to transport him between the two worlds. It wasn't until he arrived at the God-Demon battlefield that Su Zimo discovered the spatial barrier here was very thin. If he could break through, he might find a path back to the primordial heartlands. Even if it failed, with his current strength, he wouldn't die. At most, he'd run into some trouble. Luckily, both the primordial heartlands and eternal lands were considered minor worlds. Their spatial barriers weren't particularly strong. If it were a great world like the outer heavens, Su Zimo wouldn't be confident he could break through. After this battle, news of the fall of a godly monarch would surely spread across the entire eternal lands. It would shake the whole land for some time, but for Su Zimo this chapter was complete. He might never return again. At the edge of the God-Demon battlefield, Su Zimo looked up, taking a deep glance at this world. Life truly is filled with drama, like a dream, like an illusion. Then the three of them released their strongest powers toward the sky. 3 intense waves of demonic energy shot upward, tearing a hole in the sky. The entire space collapsed. Within that hole, spatial turbulence raged, and storms of space blew through. "Let's go," Su Zimo said calmly. The 3 soared into the air, charging toward the spatial barrier through the storm. The demonic energy surrounded all 3, ensuring they wouldn't be separated. Su Zimo could feel the tearing sensation around him. Once his body entered the spatial barrier, he lost all control. They could only drift with the turbulence, floating aimlessly on the edge of this void world. Su Zimo wasn't in a hurry. While his physical body rotated in the void, he remained in the God continent cultivating. Whether it was the 3-life gate to the heavens or the heaven-shattering God scripture, his path was still long. In this void space, who knew how many years they drifted? 1 year? 2? 10? Time didn't exist here, and no one could tell. Until one day, Su Zimo felt his body spinning faster. The space storm around him became more violent. Ahead, he saw a tiny beam of light. After drifting through the endless darkness, carried by the storm, they finally entered the light. Suddenly, the world spun violently. Su Zimo felt like his body was being torn apart, his head dizzy. Eventually, he passed out. After another long time, Su Zimo felt his body falling from high above, and then slammed hard into the ground. A loud boom jolted him awake from his sleep. "Master, are you all right?" The 7-faced infernal archon and bone demon quickly got up and rushed to Su Zimo. Su Zimo shook his head slightly, lay on the ground, took a deep breath and said, "As I thought, I still prefer the air of this world." He stood up and looked around. They were in a plain, and at the edge of his vision, he could faintly see the silhouette of a city. "Looks like we really made it back. I just don't know how far we are from the Void Valley," Su Zimo said. "Let's check out that city. Might be a good chance to ask for directions." The 3 moved quickly. In just a few minutes, they arrived in front of the distant city. From afar, it hadn't seemed like much, but now standing before it, they could truly feel the city's grandeur and size. The bluish-brown city walls were ancient, stretching beyond the eye's reach. Every few steps along the wall stood a soldier. The words "Order City" were written above the iron gates. The characters were powerful and bold, especially the Order, which was written in a free-flowing, majestic style. It gave a strong sense of dominance. There were 9 cities in the Nine Lands region. Su Zimo had visited Tower City before, and if memory served, Order City was also one of the 9. This meant he was now in the Nine Lands region, not too far from the Void Valley. "Let's head in," Su Zimo said. Before entering, he had the Bone Demon cover him in a black robe. He wasn't afraid of trouble, he just didn't feel like dealing with pointless problems. After all, precious time shouldn't be wasted on worthless people. As one of the 9 cities, Order City occupied nearly 1/9 of the Nine Lands region. Logically, it should have been extremely prosperous. But once inside, Su Zimo noticed it was clearly much quieter than expected. Street vendors were sparse and listless. Occasionally, a passerby hurried through without pausing. Most people stayed in their homes, and armored soldiers frequently patrolled the streets. "Something must have happened here," the Seven-Face Infernal Archon remarked casually. "Let's find an inn to ask about our location," Su Zimo said, glancing at the setting sun. "And we could use a proper rest. We haven't had a good sleep after floating for so long." They randomly picked an inn by the roadside. The inn was empty, not a single guest or staff in sight. "Anyone here?" Su Zimo called out. "Who is it?" A voice responded. An old man in a brown robe came down the stairs from the 2nd floor. "We're looking to stay," Su Zimo said as he entered the inn. "You're new here?" the old man asked curiously. "Yes," Su Zimo nodded, unsure what he meant. "Thank you all for coming to Order City to help us fight the demons. Please have a seat," the old man said joyfully. "I'm the innkeeper. You brave warriors can eat and drink anything here for free." "Fight demons?" Su Zimo frowned slightly. He smiled and said, "You may be mistaken, sir. We arrived by chance. We don't know anything about demons." "I see." The old man's face visibly dimmed. "May I ask, is this Order City in the Nine Lands region?" Su Zimo continued. "Yes, it's Order City. But if you're not here to slay demons, I'm afraid I can't let you stay," the old man said hesitantly. "These days, all inns are reserved for warriors. If you're not one, it's best to leave before dark." Just then, a group of people walked into the inn. "Innkeeper, bring out the best food and drink. Tonight, I'm off to fight blood and fire. Who knows if I'll make it back? If I die, let me die with a full belly," a rough voice shouted. A few burly men entered the inn. After them, more people trickled in. 3 young men and women in scholars' robes, a cold-looking woman with an icy temperament, and a dashing young man with a wine gourd on his waist. Chapter 726, The Great Demon of Order City. When the group walked in, the innkeeper quickly turned and smiled. "Brave warriors, please sit. Order whatever you'd like to eat." "Innkeeper, we may not know much about these so-called demons, but if we can learn more, we'd be willing to help," Su Zimo said with a smile from the side. "You all sit as well." The innkeeper thought for a moment, then agreed to receive Su Zimo's group too. "Brothers, it's getting dark. Sharpen your blades," said a burly man nearby. "Those demons eat people and don't even spit out the bones. I never thought about returning when I came here. The Lord of Order said that if I die, he'll send my child to the Great Order Academy," said another burly man. "I think it's worth it." The 3 young men and women in scholars' robes seemed to be together and were drinking. One of them laughed and said, "So what if the kid gets into the Great Order Academy? We don't even know if Order City can survive." "Where are you from, young master?" one of the burly men asked the scholarly youth, noticing he seemed refined and distinguished. "We're from the Nine Lands Academy. This is my senior brother, Xiao Jie," the girl beside him replied. "Nine Lands Academy?" Hearing that name, everyone around was shocked. The Nine Lands region had 9 major powers, and each generally had its own academy. Order City had the Great Order Academy. Tower City had the Great Tower Academy. Though all of them were renowned, the number 1 academy in the domain was undoubtedly the Nine Lands Academy. Its fame reached far beyond the Nine Lands. Across the entire Middle Continent, it was legendary. Some even claimed it was the top academy under the Heavenly Tao Academy. So, you're students of the Nine Lands Academy. An honor to meet you, the burly man smiled. Students from your academy truly are elites. Even though Order City is surrounded by demons and close to becoming a dead city, you still came to slay demons. I respect that. We came here to temper ourselves. Our teacher said that true training happens between life and death. Otherwise, it has little value, Xiao Jie replied. In a foreign land, we share golden flower wine. Across 10,000 miles, we mourn beneath the wild sky, said the man with the wine gourd on his waist, suddenly laughing. Leaning against the wall, he took big swigs of golden flower wine from his gourd. Getting caught up in the moment, he couldn't help reciting a poem aloud. Even wine can't shut you up, the cold-looking woman beside him said icily. Sorry, couldn't help it. The wine-gourd man waved his hand with a laugh. Carry on. Young master, what would you like to eat? After serving the others, the innkeeper came to Su Zimo and asked. Just a pot of wine will do, Su Zimo said, waving his hand. Can I ask you something? Please ask. The innkeeper nodded. What's this demon situation in Order City all about? Su Zimo asked. Young master may not know. Order City lies in the western part of the Nine Lands and is one of the most famous cities here. Everything was peaceful until a year ago, when turmoil broke out in the Western King Valley. Shortly after, groups of demons began pouring out to attack Order City, the innkeeper explained. For the past year, people have been in panic. Many left. Those who stayed are deeply attached to this place. What was once a bustling city has become what you see now. Did you not investigate the situation? Su Zimo asked. The city lord sent people, but they say there's something terrifying in the Western King Valley. No one dares approach. The innkeeper shook his head. It's been a year, Su Zimo frowned. Aren't the 9 major powers in the Nine Lands united? Why haven't the others helped? Let alone other powers, even our own local force, Supreme Order, has abandoned Order City. The innkeeper sighed. Why? Su Zimo asked in confusion. By rights, Order City was Supreme Order's pride. No matter what, it should have been defended. Now, demons were attacking it and they simply ignored it? I'm not entirely sure, but it seems our city lord had a falling out with Supreme Order. Now he's on his own, the innkeeper said, shaking his head. He stepped forward, heated a pot of wine, and gently brought it over. These are troubled times. We've already prepared to live and die with this city. Su Zimo sipped the wine, thinking to himself. So-called demons were neither monsters nor devils, but creatures created to resemble both. Solving this wouldn't be hard, just find the source and eliminate it. If the source remained, no amount of killing would help. Just as everyone finished eating, the sky outside had already darkened. More and more soldiers patrolled the streets. In the pitch-black night, it felt like a silent beast was devouring all life. Innkeeper, thanks for the hospitality. Time for us to go, the burly men said, grabbing their gear and disappearing into the night. Senior brother, what should we do? The students from the Nine Lands Academy discussed. They're just small fry for now. We'll wait until the real fighting starts, Xiao Jie replied nonchalantly. What about us, master? The bone demon asked. Doesn't matter. I'd actually like to see what these demons are, Su Zimo said with a smile. This inn wasn't far from the city gates. Outside, the sounds of battle and strange screeches began to rise. We should go. The cold, noble-looking woman stood and said to the wine-gourd man. Got it. Looks like I won't get to drink in peace. The man chuckled, standing and following her out. Watching them leave, Su Zimo casually glanced toward the door. Several figures passed by outside, cloaked in the thick night. Suddenly, Su Zimo's gaze paused in surprise at one of the silhouettes. He watched that figure disappear from sight, then grinned. Master, what is it? The seven-face infernal archon looked toward the door in confusion. I think I just saw someone familiar, Su Zimo said. Not going to say hi? The bone demon asked. Maybe they missed me dearly? Su Zimo chuckled, then stood and left the inn. Walking onto Order City's main street, there were no ordinary people around. The street vendors had long since hidden away. Only Order City's soldiers and cultivators who had come to help remained. Following the main road, Su Zimo headed directly toward the city gate. Chapter 727 Encountering Lord of Samsara. From a distance, flames already lit up the sky ahead. The sounds of battle intertwined with eerie screeches. When Su Zimo arrived at the city wall, he glanced around and saw that several thousand people were stationed here. His gaze dropped below the wall, looking down at the battlefield outside the city. Below, it was packed densely with monsters that resembled legendary imps. They were entirely black-purple in color, hideous in appearance, taller than normal humans, and wielded various weapons. Although not very powerful individually, at a glance there were easily more than 10,000 of them. The distant horizon was filled with these imps. Everyone hold the line. We must not let the demons breach our city. A man in black armor shouted in the crowd. The pressure of the Empyrean Meridian realm radiated from his body, making him the strongest present. Faint golden spirit force swirled around him. In the dark night, he was like a blazing sun, lighting up the city walls. Battle was imminent. The imps leapt dozens of meters high, extremely agile, just 2 or 3 jumps and they were at the top of the wall. Kill them. Protect our Order City. Don't be afraid. These imps may be many, but they're all weak. As long as we survive this demonic disaster, Lord Hu Yen has promised to fulfill all his commitments. Cries rang out around the city. Those with lower strength held the walls, while others more confident in their skills leapt down to fight the demons directly. Su Zimo looked up. Everyone was using their own techniques, sword aura, saber intent, all kinds of elemental spirit force exploded in the air like fireworks. Among them, 2 people stood out most. They were the 2 Su Zimo had seen earlier at the inn. One was the man with the wine gourd at his waist. He wielded a long sword in one hand and held his wine gourd in the other. His movements appeared drunk and unsteady, but his swordplay was fierce and elegant. Invisible sword intent surrounded him. With each slash, groups of imps fell. Thousands of flying swords followed his form as he danced, a style reminiscent of a great river sword descending from the heavens. The other was the cold, aloof woman, surrounded by frigid air. One palm strike would freeze the land for several miles, and when the ice shattered, all the nearby imps vanished. These imps, being artificial creations, left no corpses behind. They simply dissipated into the air upon death. Just as the battle raged, several loud explosions, boom, 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 rang out. Everyone looked up to see 4 massive demon beasts emerging from the horizon. These 4 resembled minotaurs, with bull horns, thick fur covering their entire bodies, and blood-red eyes. They attacked from 4 directions around the city. Minotaurs! Everyone be careful! Shouted Hu Yanzhua, the city lord of Order City. The city's stronger cultivators ignored the imps and went straight to intercept the minotaurs. These creatures were extremely powerful. Just a few strikes could destroy the city walls. They absolutely could not be allowed to get close. This is bad. Weren't there usually only 1 or 2 minotaurs? Why are there for this time? Someone exclaimed in fear. How are we supposed to defend against that? City Lord Hu Yen he charged toward the eastern minotaur, while the man with the wine gourd and the ice-cold woman joined forces to stop another. Several elderly cultivators flew from the city toward the western minotaur. It's the 7 elders of Vast Mountain, someone shouted in surprise. With 3 directions covered, all we need to do is hold back the northern minotaur until morning. A large number of people fearlessly charged toward the northern minotaur. But it was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot, futile and naive. The minotaur stood nearly 100 meters tall. Every step left a deep crater on the ground. A single stomp could send dozens of people flying. The skin was thick and incredibly tough. As the minotaur charged toward the wall, City Lord Hu Yen he roared in desperation. Stop it! He wanted to help, but he was held up by the Eastern Minotaur and couldn't break away. For a moment, under the cover of the imps, casualties in Order City soared, but people still did their best to hold the line. Su Zimo paid no attention to the chaos around him. His gaze was fixed on a young man surrounded like a star among moons. After all these years, I didn't expect we'd meet again like this. At this moment, Su Zimo was standing on the northern wall. As the Minotaur rampaged its way to the edge of the wall, a pile of corpses lay behind it. It was nearly as tall as the wall. Its massive head huffed heavily as it stared at the defenders atop the ramparts. With a furious roar, red light flashed from its horns as it charged straight at the wall. "Run! It's coming right at us! Fall back! We can't hold the north wall anymore!" As most people cried out in panic, Su Zimo sneered, "Noisy!" He raised his right hand and slapped. That one palm sent the colossal Minotaur flying through the air. Under everyone's stunned gaze, the Minotaur crashed heavily into the distant ground. Its body was mangled, both horns snapped off, and foul bluish blood poured from its wounds. This scene shocked everyone into silence. Even the other 3 Minotaurs stopped in their tracks, staring blankly at the wall. At that moment, all eyes were fixed on Su Zimo, including the youth surrounded at the center of the crowd. He also looked over. The moment he saw Su Zimo, he froze. Then his eyes filled with fury. "Su Zimo," he growled through clenched teeth. "Tianyun, what is it?" asked a confused young man beside him. "You know him?" "I know him. I'd recognize him even if he were reduced to bones and ashes," the youth said coldly, filled with killing intent. "Thank you for aiding Order City, my lord. When dawn breaks, I, Hu Yen, will surely reward you." Hu Yen, he shouted his thanks to Su Zimo from afar. Then he turned back to the others and shouted, "What are you all standing around for? The imps are charging again." The stunned crowd snapped out of it and resumed defending against the imps. With the Minotaur threat gone, things became much easier. The young man in Taoist robes pushed through the crowd, walking step by step toward Su Zimo. The battle outside the city raged on. Firelight lit up the sky. The screams of imps and the shouts of warriors blended together. The wind howled coldly. So did the people. "So, should I call you the Lord of Samsara now? Or the Tao race's holy son, Tao Tianyun?" Su Zimo asked with a soft smile. Chapter 728, Western King Valley. "Whatever you call me won't change what we are. You're my mortal enemy," the Lord of Samsara said calmly. "This world really is small. I was actually planning to go to the Tao race to find you," Su Zimo replied with a smile. Back in the Inyang sect, he had slain Order Yang, and the Lord of Samsara had escaped by transforming into Samsara itself. In his next life, he had become the Tao race's holy son. "I'm curious. How did you recognize me?" Su Zimo asked. After all, he was currently in Lin Qiu's body. He hadn't expected the Lord of Samsara to still recognize him. "Your god soul still carries the aura of my Samsara seal. Unless your soul is completely destroyed, I can sense you even if you turn to ashes," the Lord of Samsara said coldly. "Reincarnation really is troublesome." Su Zimo shook his head. "So, you want revenge?" "Every day and night, I think about it," the Lord of Samsara replied, with the aura of Samsara spreading around him. In addition to the power of Samsara, traces of Tao energy also surrounded him. It was clear he had been diligently cultivating these past years and had learned many of the Tao race's techniques. While his cultivation hadn't caught up to Su Zimo, he had at least reached the Empyrean Meridian realm. "I wonder what the time difference is between the Eternal Lands and the Primordial Heartlands," Su Zimo thought silently. Different worlds had different time flows, just like how 10 days in the God world was only 1 day outside. "Tianyun, what are you doing?" A young man nearby noticed the change in the Lord of Samsara and stepped forward. "Step back. I have a personal matter to settle," the Lord of Samsara said calmly. "It's demon siege time. Can't it wait until this is over?" the young man asked with concern. "I said step back." The Lord of Samsara turned, his eyes cold. The next moment, Samsara power surged around him, and he stepped into the air, striking at Suzumo with one palm. So many years and still no progress. Suzumo shook his head. He let the palm strike land without reacting. The Lord of Samsara's eyes narrowed. He formed a seal with his hands, gathering Samsara energy into his palms. Then he shouted, "All heaven Samsara slash." The condensed Samsara energy transformed into a blade of energy, within which various illusions of all forms evolved. The blade rotated slowly before him. The surrounding space began to crack from the sheer sharpness. The next moment, the Lord of Samsara waved his right hand, and the blade shot toward Suzumo like a sonic boom. "Pointless battle," Suzumo said, reaching out with his right hand and grabbing the blade before crushing it in the void. The next moment, his body vanished from where he stood, leaving only an afterimage behind. He appeared in front of the Lord of Samsara, grabbed his neck, and lifted him up. "You're so weak I don't even feel like fighting," Suzumo said, shaking his head. "Please, young master, spare him. He's the holy son of the Tao race. I apologize on his behalf. Please spare his life." The young man from earlier quickly stepped forward and pleaded. "No need to beg him." The Lord of Samsara struggled to breathe and said, "Even if I die by his hands, I won't bow my head." Suzumo smiled, then crushed the Lord of Samsara's throat and tossed him aside. The elder's body slammed into the ground heavily. If it had been an ordinary person, a crushed throat would have meant death. But as an Empyrean, he would recover eventually after enduring some pain. The Lord of Samsara twitched on the ground, blood pouring endlessly from his mouth. Suzumo walked over step by step, gently pressing his foot on the elder's head. "You wanted revenge, but when given the chance, you couldn't do anything," Suzumo said with a smirk. "Kill me, or one day I'll kill you and everyone you love," the Lord of Samsara said with bloodshot eyes, still struggling. "I'll be waiting," Suzumo replied, then kicked him away and turned to leave. He didn't concern himself with the situation in Order City any longer. Instead, with the seven-face infernal archon and the bone demon, he headed toward the Western King Valley. "Master, why didn't you kill him?" the bone demon asked, puzzled. "He's doomed anyway, but I won't let him die so easily." Suzumo shook his head. For someone already bound to die, death is always the most comfortable ending. It spares you pain and despair. In his previous life, Suzumo had struggled in guilt, loneliness, helplessness, and despair for many years. His father's hair turned white overnight, and he secluded himself in the mountains. His mother met a tragic death. His closest brother, Lin Ruhu, took a sword meant for him. Suzumo swore he'd never forget that kind of agony. Even in this new life, those memories remained. As Suzumo walked farther away, the Lord of Samsara's face went from furious to calm. He sat up from the ground, quietly watching Suzumo's retreating figure. "Tianyun, are you all right?" The young man beside him walked over and asked with concern. "I'm fine." The Lord of Samsara waved his hand. "These past few years, I've been tracking him with no results, like he vanished from the world. Didn't expect to meet him here. You were too impulsive. Even if he's your enemy, you shouldn't have attacked him." The young man shook his head. "His strength clearly surpasses yours. Yes, I can't see through him anymore. On my own, I fear revenge is impossible." The Lord of Samsara shook his head. "Maybe it's time I seek out Bailey Shao." Leaving Order City behind, Suzumo and his companions walked toward Western King Valley. Along the way, countless imps attacked them, but with the bone demon guarding, none could come close within dozens of meters. Crossing the plains in front of the city, a dense forest appeared ahead. According to the innkeeper, Western King Valley was just beyond the forest. Compared to the plains, the imps in the forest were more numerous and ferocious. After the trio passed through the forest, they saw massive trees emitting black mist deep within. These trees were several meters tall, leafless, and oozing thick liquid from their trunks. The viscous liquid gathered into spheres resembling large orbs. Chapter 729, The Suspended Elder. As those thick liquids condensed into orbs, they shattered in an instant, and from within jumped out one imp after another. "So this is how these imps are created," Su Zimo said with interest. "These are ghost oak trees. If the evil energy becomes dense enough, they can indeed produce imps," the seven-face infernal archon said. "But the production speed shouldn't be this fast. One imp after another continuously. It's a bit strange." The three walked forward to investigate. The seven-face infernal archon looked at the soil beneath them, thought for a moment, and then said, "No wonder. They're using sacred soil to grow the ghost oak trees. Quite the expense. Many spirit herbs and treasures require special environments to grow. Ordinary soil isn't enough to cultivate them. So special soils like spirit or sacred soil exist. This kind of soil is extremely rare and is usually reserved for growing divine herbs. No one would waste it on a practically meaningless tree like the ghost oak tree. Because of the sacred soil, each tree could produce one imp per minute." "Let's go have a look ahead," Su Zimo said. The three walked through the forest of ghost oak trees, heading straight forward. Finally, a massive valley appeared before them. The valley was vast and boundless, larger than any Su Zimo had ever seen. The valley floor was unfathomably deep, and only one kind of plant grew along its edges. Blood-red western king flowers. The night sky seemed to be retreating slightly, with the faint glow of dawn appearing in the east. With the rising light, the imps' attacks weakened. When full daylight arrived, the imps would stop appearing. Just as Su Zimo was about to explore the valley floor, the sound of battle came from behind the forest. He saw Order City's city lord Hu Yenjue arriving, accompanied by the wine-gourd man and the cold woman. When Hu Yenjue saw Su Zimo and his companions, he was clearly startled. "I haven't had the chance to thank you for your great help to Order City," Hu Yenjue said, bowing deeply to Su Zimo. "Is everything settled over at Order City?" Su Zimo asked. "Dawn's about to break. Those imps won't be able to stir up any more trouble," Hu Yenjue replied. "I wanted to come here and take a look. Waiting endlessly like this will only lead to our eventual collapse. We won't hold out forever." He then pointed to the two beside him and said, "Let me introduce. These two are the helpers I invited. Li Changtian and Miss Lu Ming'er. Just call me Su Zimo. These two are my friends." "They're not talkative," Su Zimo said with a smile. "You're heading into Western King Valley too?" Lu Ming'er asked calmly. "Doesn't hurt to see a bit more of the world," Su Zimo replied. "Then let's go together. We can watch each other's backs," said Li Changtian. "I heard you've been here before?" Su Zimo asked. "I came alone once to investigate and ended up surrounded by a few bull demons. I had to abandon it," said Hu Yenjue. Su Zimo gave him a deep look. He had a feeling Hu Yenjue was hiding something. According to what the innkeeper had said, the demon invasion had lasted nearly a year already. Did Hu Yenjue really do nothing in that time? And why did he fall out with Supreme Order? These details were curious. Su Zimo didn't care to involve himself too deeply, but gaining more knowledge was never a bad thing. Western King Valley had no real paths. Everyone had to step on the blood-red Western King flowers to descend. "What's the story behind Western King Valley?" Su Zimo asked midway. Hu Yenjue hesitated slightly, then replied, "It's related to someone called the Western King. Thousands of years ago, the Western King was a swordsmanship prodigy who emerged suddenly in the Nine Lands region. He once challenged all 9 major forces alone with just a sword, but he later lost in the battle for Heaven's will and came to live out his days in this valley. Some say he buried himself at the bottom, which is where the name Western King Valley comes from, along with these Western King flowers." "I see," Su Zimo nodded. He still felt Hu Yenjue's expression was unnatural when speaking of the Western King. As they floated down, they also observed the valley, occasionally climbing down the cliff walls. Halfway down, sharp cries suddenly echoed from below. Giant eagles flew up from the valley depths. These eagles were pure white and several times the size of ordinary eagles. Feathers, white as blood, drifted down gently. Their beaks were sharp and greenish-blue. Essence-devouring eagles, Lu Ming'er said seriously. This many essence-devouring eagles makes me think of one person. The suspended elder, Li Changtian said clearly. There was no time for discussion. The eagles charged toward them. Everyone's aura erupted as they engaged the birds in battle. Hold back a bit, Su Zimo whispered to the two demons. They nodded quickly, reining in their strength so they wouldn't accidentally obliterate the birds in one strike. Sharp eagle screeches and shouts echoed in the valley. Hu Yanjue called out, "The essence-devouring eagle's weakness is in their wings. Destroy the wings, and they're easier to kill." Everyone nodded in response. "Frozen lands," Lu Ming'er said softly. A burst of icy energy radiated from her body, sending a powerful cold wave through the valley. In an instant, everything around her was frozen solid. Ice spread throughout the valley, freezing all the essence-devouring eagles in place. "Finish it quickly. I can't hold them long," Lu Ming'er said pale-faced. Clearly, the move had taken a toll on her. "Watch this," Li Changtian said, nodding. He tossed his sword into the air, and in a flash it split into thousands of blades. A storm of sword energy hovered above. "Sword-burst nebula," he shouted. Countless swords rained down like a tempest, carrying immense energy. The frozen eagles were unable to dodge and were pierced through, heads, wings all run through. As the ice melted, their corpses fell from the sky amid painful screeches. "Would you all be willing to come down with me and destroy this suspended elder?" Hu Yanjue asked. "If we succeed, once Order City is liberated, I, Hu Yanjue, will share all my family's business in Order City equally with you." Upon hearing this, Li Changtian and Lu Ming'er exchanged glances. Order City was the largest in the Supreme Order territory, one of the 9 great cities. The Hu clan had long controlled Order City, and their businesses spanned the entire city. It was hard to imagine just how vast that fortune would be. Chapter 730, Western King's Inheritance. "Well?" Hu Yanjue asked again. Li Changtian and Lu Ming'er nodded simultaneously and said, "We came to help City Lord Hu Yan in the first place, so we have no objections." "What about you, young Master Su?" Hu Yanjue turned to Su Zimo and asked again. "I don't really mind," Su Zimo said with a smile. "But who exactly is this suspended elder? I've never heard of him." "The suspended elder is quite well known in the Nine Lands region," Li Changtian explained on the side. "His own cultivation isn't high, but he's proficient in beast control. He commands a vast number of demonic beasts and often experiments with their mutations. Those essence-devouring eagles earlier were one of his creations, and he's the only one who can produce them." "Then let's go take a look at the bottom of the valley," Su Zimo said. Since the suspended elder was attacking Order City, he definitely had a purpose. It wouldn't be without reason. "Then I'll be counting on everyone." Hu Yanjue bowed deeply to the group. Everyone continued descending to the valley floor. Along the way, they were intermittently blocked by various mutated beasts. There were 8-legged centipedes, blue flower snakes, and giant geckos. "This place is basically a dragon's lair and tiger's den," Li Changtian said in awe. "They killed what they could, and for beasts too troublesome to deal with, they simply ignored them and rushed down as fast as possible. That guy probably wants to delay us with these beasts while he makes his escape," Hu Yanjue snorted. "Let's all reach the bottom first." Everyone charged downward. The deeper they went, the more lush the Western King flowers became. Their fragrance filled the valley and covered the paths ahead. Finally, after half an hour, the group leapt down from the cliff and landed inside the valley. Before them stood 10 massive bull demons. These demons had their eyes closed, as if undergoing some sort of metamorphic experiment. A man in black robes was walking around them, seemingly admiring his work. "Suspended elder," Hu Yanjue shouted as he saw the robed man. The man turned, pulling back his hood to reveal a round, ruddy face. He removed his black robe, revealing a fat monk. He wore a kasaya, a prayer bead necklace around his neck, and a burlap sack at his waist. "When did the suspended elder become a monk?" Hu Yanjua said coldly upon seeing the outfit. Even someone like you can enter the Buddhist path? You're mistaken, benefactor. As long as Buddha is in one's heart, all under heaven is Buddhist land. The suspended elder replied with a smile. Enough nonsense. Everyone, attack. Hu Yanjua snorted, golden spiritual energy flashing around him as he threw a punch toward the suspended elder. Amitabha, the suspended elder said, forming a Buddhist salute. The sack at his waist flew out and enveloped Hu Yanjua. Inside the sack was total darkness. Suddenly, a giant python emerged from it, biting toward Hu Yanjua. Everyone, help! Hu Yanjua shouted in surprise. Li Changtian and the others were just about to join the attack when the suspended elder chuckled and said, I've heard that City Lord Hu Yan's swordsmanship is unmatched, perfectly inheriting the Western King's essence. Why not show it now? Upon hearing this, Li Changtian and Lu Ming'er frowned. Western King sword technique? Does City Lord Hu Yan have some connection to the Western King? They both sensed something was off. Hu Yanjua was clearly hiding something. What are you saying? I don't understand. Hu Yanjua replied quickly. Everyone, don't listen to his nonsense. He's just trying to divide us. Nonsense. The suspended elder chuckled. You know better than anyone what I'm after. Why do you think I attacked Order City? Why has Supreme Order turned against you? The 9 cities of the Nine Lands region have always stood united. So why is no one intervening now? Then why don't you tell us? Su Zimo asked from the side. My advice is that you all stay out of this. I'm just the vanguard. The person behind all this cherishes their reputation and can't appear publicly, the suspended elder said calmly. If you really anger them, they're not someone you can afford to offend. Suspended elder, stop spouting nonsense. I don't understand a word of what you're saying, Hu Yanjua shouted. He fought the giant python evenly, but was growing anxious inside. City Lord Hu Yan, it's time to tell the truth. Otherwise, how can we continue helping you in good faith? Li Changtian said from the side. What is there to say? I don't understand his words and have nothing to hide from you, Hu Yanjua said flatly. Then you, fat monk, explain. What's going on? Li Changtian asked. Otherwise, we'll have to take you down and force the truth out. The suspended elder's gaze sharpened, but then he laughed lightly. Fine, I'll tell you. It's not like that thing is fated to be mine anyway. Shut up, Hu Yanjua roared in fury. A flexible sword coiled at his waist gleamed brilliantly and slashed the python into pieces before charging at the suspended elder. City Lord Hu Yan, what's the rush? Let him speak. Su Zimo's voice rang out. With a flick of his finger, countless shadows split off from the flexible sword, forcing Hu Yanjua back. Hu Yanjua steadied himself and looked at Su Zimo grimly. I really underestimated you, the suspended elder said, still a bit rattled. He added, you don't want to hear it, but I'm going to tell them anyway. All of this is about the Western King's inheritance. The Western King's inheritance? Li Changtian frowned slightly. So the rumors are true, that the Western King buried himself in this valley in his later years? I don't know if that's true, the suspended elder said, but I do know the Hu clan are his descendants. The Western King's descendants? Everyone gasped and turned in shock to look at Hu Yanjua. Hu Yanjua took a deep breath and closed his eyes slightly. City Lord Hu Yan, care to explain? The suspended elder asked with a schadenfreude-filled grin. There's nothing to explain. The Western King's inheritance is mine. I won't give it to anyone, Hu Yanjua replied. He was my ancestor. Why should I hand it over to others? So the fallout with Supreme Order was over the Western King's inheritance, Su Zimo said. Yes, Hu Yanjua nodded. He looked at the suspended elder and said, I also know you were sent by Supreme Order, right? Order City is one of the 9 cities and a core of Supreme Order. The suspended elder nodded. The Hu clan has ruled Order City for generations and holds immense influence. If Supreme Order were to seize the inheritance by force, the consequences and backlash would be enormous. Chapter 731, Sword God Spirit. You should understand that Supreme Order is still giving you time to consider, the suspended elder said. They've grown impatient after a year. Besides, they only want the Western King's sword. The rest of the inheritance can still belong to your Hu clan. If it really comes to a life-or-death struggle, your clan will get nothing, maybe even be wiped out. They wouldn't dare, Hu Yanjue said angrily. What wouldn't they dare? This past year, my only orders have been to cause trouble for Order City. They never truly intended to destroy it, said the suspended elder. Think carefully. How could your Hu clan resist all of Supreme Order? Or even the entire Nine Lands? Hearing this, Hu Yanjue was silent for a moment. In the end, he snorted coldly and said, Then I'll just wait here for them to come take it. After saying this, Hu Yanjue clearly looked upset. He walked away along the valley floor of the Western King Valley without bothering with Li Changtian and the others. Everyone, please leave, the suspended elder said with a smile. Let's go. Li Changtian glanced at Lu Ming'er, sipping from the wine gourd at his waist casually. What a waste of time. You're still in the mood to drink. Lu Ming'er said flatly. What else can we do? I think City Lord Hu Yen is just angry. Let him cool off for a while. We didn't come all this way for nothing. Li Changtian smiled. Brother Su, then we'll take our leave for now. Li Changtian waved to Su Zimo as he spoke. Watching the two walk away, the suspended elder smiled and said, Young master, are you still staying? I've told you everything I know. I'm just curious. Why does Supreme Order want the Western King sword? Su Zimo asked. Is there some kind of secret? You don't know the story of the Western King's rise to fame? The suspended elder gave him a strange look. What story? Su Zimo asked. The Western King became famous when he was young. His swordsmanship wasn't just peerless in the 9 provinces. It was unparalleled even in the central continent, the suspended elder said. There's a rumor that when he was young, he received guidance from a sword god spirit, which is what allowed him to achieve such heights. That sword god spirit is said to be sealed inside his sword. So in the Nine Lands region, it's said that whoever obtains the sword god spirit could become as powerful as the Western King. If that were true, I haven't seen Hu Yanjue show any amazing strength. Su Zimo laughed. When he cut down my giant python earlier, you saw that sword technique, didn't you? Said the suspended elder. He may not have grasped the full essence, but it's getting there. What's this sword god spirit? Sounds pretty far-fetched, Su Zimo asked. There are many theories, but the most convincing one is that the sword soul belongs to the true god sword, the suspended elder answered. Once the true god sword is complete, it can open the ancient celestial court. Everything left behind by the holy progenitor from the desolate era is said to be within. This world's smaller than I thought, Su Zimo murmured. Does the young master have thoughts about it too? The suspended elder smiled. Collecting the full true god sword is too far off. Just getting the sword god spirit and becoming someone like the Western King would be good enough, Su Zimo replied. In return for telling me all this, I'll let you live, he added, waving his hand. In truth, he had already collected the true god sword long ago. He only lacked a few things: the sword soul, the 9-curve god flame needed to reforge it, and the supreme god hammer. Safe travels, young master, the suspended elder quickly called after Su Zimo's departing figure. He wiped the sweat from his forehead. He had seemed calm earlier, but inside he had been panicking. The pressure from Su Zimo and the 2 black-robed figures beside him was simply overwhelming. After everyone left, the suspended elder looked around. Daylight had fully broken. There was no point continuing here, so he decided to report everything to Supreme Order. He wasn't about to miss out on his reward. Things were developing beyond his control. In Order City, all the little demons had retreated. Hu Yanjue's face was grim. After returning to the city, he ignored all the praise and compliments from others. He went straight to the city lord's manor and ordered it sealed off. Once in his room, Hu Yanjue first ensured no one was spying. Then he pried open the floor under his bed and retrieved a black box. Opening it, a red longsword came into view. The sword lay quietly inside the box. Its surface looked ancient and unadorned. It was clearly very old. "Let's talk," Hu Yanjue said quietly, gripping the hilt. Immediately, a faint red aura emanated from the sword, enveloping Hu Yanjue. His vision shifted, and he appeared in a pitch-black space. "Speak," came an ancient voice from the darkness. The void was filled only with boundless sword intent. "You helped my ancestor back then. Why won't you help me now?" Hu Yanjue asked with a deep breath. "I won't last much longer. If you agree, I'll abandon Order City and take you far away. I've already told you, becoming someone like the Western King isn't up to me," said the voice from the darkness. "You need the right comprehension and talent. Clearly, you don't have it. Whether I fall into someone else's hands makes no difference to me. As long as they have the talent, I can teach them." "You don't want to reunite your sword body?" Hu Yanjue asked angrily. "If I hide you, your wish won't come true for hundreds of years." "You're threatening me," the dark voice snapped, and a terrifying sword aura burst out. Its edge was blinding. Hu Yanjue could feel it could slice him to bits in a breath if it wanted. "You promised my ancestor not to harm the Hu clan," Hu Yanjue said boldly. "Teach me, and I'll help you find the fragments. It's a win-win." "I told you, you're just not suitable," the voice in the darkness replied with irritation. Then the darkness faded, and Hu Yanjue was back in his room, looking at the red long sword in his hand. His expression was stormy and conflicted. He threw the sword aside and began smashing everything in his room in frustration. After leaving the Western King Valley, Su Zimo and his two companions returned to Order City. After the battle the night before, many soldiers were tired and resting. Su Zimo didn't bother with anyone and went straight to the city lord's manor. "What business do you have?" asked the guards at the gate. "We're here to see City Lord Hu Yen." Su Zimo smiled and walked inside. The two guards tried to stop him but were suppressed on the spot by Bone Demon. "Lead the way," Su Zimo said to one of the guards. The guard, clearly terrified, quickly said, "I'll go report you right away." Chapter 732, The Trial. The guard led Su Zimo and his group toward the inner courtyard, shouting along the way, "Master, someone is here to see you. Aren't you ashamed to be shouting like that?" A stern voice called out from inside. In the quiet courtyard, Hu Yanjue walked out, his expression grim and full of anger. When he saw Su Zimo and the others, he was clearly taken aback. "So it's young Master Su." Hu Yanjue forced a smile and said, "What brings you here?" "City Lord Hu, that's not very kind." Su Zimo smiled as well and said, "I killed the bull demons to protect Order City and even accompanied you to the Western King Valley. Then you just abandoned me without a word. Don't you think that's a bit much?" Hearing this, Hu Yanjue let out a long sigh. He shook his head and said, "I'm sorry. I lost control of my emotions earlier. How about this? Rest in the manor for now, and I'll have some gifts prepared for you." "No need for gifts. I'm only here to take one thing, not asking for much," Su Zimo replied. "What is it that young Master Su wants?" Hu Yanjue frowned slightly. "The Western King Sword," Su Zimo said calmly. Hu Yanjue's expression changed. Then he forced a smile. "Young Master Su must be joking." "Do I look like I'm joking?" Su Zimo asked. "You should know, I won't give the Western King Sword to anyone," Hu Yanjue said coldly. "Even if you kill me, I won't hand it over. Then I'll kill you and find it myself." As soon as Su Zimo finished speaking, Bone Demon stepped forward and, before Hu Yanjue could react, shattered all the bones in his body. Hu Yanjue collapsed like a pile of mush and was dragged across the ground by Bone Demon. "What are you doing?" Hu Yanjue shouted in pain. "I think you still don't understand your situation," Su Zimo said with a smile. "I am not Supreme Order. I don't care about reputation or influence. Even slaughtering a city is just another Tuesday for me." He walked into the courtyard and headed straight to Hu Yanjue's residence. The room was littered with broken vases and overturned tables. Clearly, Hu Yanjue had been throwing a tantrum earlier. "So, where did you hide it?" Su Zimo asked. Hu Yanjue snorted and turned his head away. Suzimo chuckled and said to Bone Demon, "Gather all the children and women of the Hu clan in the manor." "What are you trying to do?" Hu Yenjua's expression changed, his voice tense. "I want to know what's more important, the Western King Sword or your wife and children," Suzimo replied. "You're evil." Hu Yenjua glared at Suzimo, fury in his eyes. "Think what you want," Suzimo said. "Hand over the Western King Sword, and your family stays safe. Supreme Order won't bother you anymore either. You can blame it all on me. But if you don't, you'll die, all of you, and the sword won't matter to you anyway." Hu Yenjua fell silent for a moment. Seeing Bone Demon about to leave, he suddenly shouted, "Wait! What is it?" Suzimo asked. "Can you guarantee that if I hand over the Western King Sword, you'll let us go?" Hu Yenjua asked. "We've got no grudge against you. What good does it do me to kill your family?" Suzimo smiled. "Fine. Since I can't use the Western King Sword anyway, I might as well give it to you," Hu Yenjua sighed. In that moment, he seemed to age several years. "But let me warn you, even if the sword is in your hands, it's useless without its recognition," he added. "No need to worry about that," Suzimo said. Hu Yenjua exhaled and retrieved a black box from beneath the floorboards. Suzimo took the box and opened it to see the red sword lying quietly inside. "Talk to it. The sword god spirit inside can understand," Hu Yenjua said. Suzimo smiled, held the sword in his hand, and said, "Let's have a chat?" In the next moment, thick red mist enveloped Suzimo, pulling his consciousness into the dark space. "Hello, human," a voice echoed in the darkness. "I won't waste words. If you want to speak with me, pass my trial first." As the voice faded, countless sword lights appeared in the sky. "No spirit force allowed. Use one strike to break this technique," the sword god spirit said. A sword appeared in front of Suzimo, one for him to use. "I'll give you time to think." "No need. Let's do this now." Suzimo picked up the sword and gestured casually. The voice said no more. Sword energy surged in all directions within the void, blades glinting as they came at Suzimo from every angle. "One sword breaks all techniques," Suzimo muttered softly. He slowly swung the sword in his hand. At the tip, space rippled in waves. It felt like a suction force radiated from the sword as Suzimo spun in place, sweeping the blade around. With the growing suction, all the sword energy rushing toward him was drawn in, clinging to the blade. As his spinning grew faster, Suzimo resembled a tornado, absorbing all the sword intent. Then, with one swing, he sent the concentrated sword energy blasting toward one side of the dark space. The sword aura vanished into the void, swallowed by the darkness. "Not bad. Now for the second trial," the voice echoed again. "No need for more trouble. How about you try taking a strike from me?" Suzimo grinned. "Oh," the sword god spirit chuckled. "You're the first one in all these years to speak so boldly." "With strength comes confidence," Suzimo replied. Though he primarily practiced blade arts, he understood that all weapons shared a common essence. At his level, he could comprehend the true meaning behind any weapon. Suzimo placed his left hand behind his back and, holding the sword in his right, stabbed forward slowly into the void. It was a simple thrust, no spiritual energy, no force behind it. But as it came forward, everything fell silent. The moment the sword moved, it felt terrifying. It was as if an unstoppable sword were locked onto the target, impossible to escape. A sword materialized in the dark void, meeting his strike head-on. Two blades, tip to tip, collided. An invisible wave of sword intent exploded outward. With a booming sound, Suzimo's sword pierced through the void sword and shattered it completely. Chapter 733 Wanted Suzimo. "You lost," Suzimo said casually after the sword intent in the void was extinguished. There was a long silence in the darkness. Finally, the aged voice asked, "Your strength is far beyond mine. What do you need from me? I can't teach you." "Who said I needed you to teach me swordsmanship?" Suzimo replied. "You mean?" The sword god spirit paused, as if realizing something. "Look at this." Su Zimo took out the true God sword from the God world and said. The moment the true God sword appeared, even though it was not yet in its complete form, it still suppressed all sword intent in the void. It floated in midair like a king among swords, exuding unmatched presence. You. The aged voice was clearly shocked. "You found it." "I'm still missing a few parts, but I'm close," Su Zimo said. "After being separated for millions of years, don't you want to merge again?" The elder was silent for a long time before saying, "If I don't merge willingly, I suppose you'll force it?" "It's better if you agree on your own," Su Zimo said. "I've been searching for my fragments all these years too," the sword god spirit replied. "I once trained the Western King, hoping he could help me recover them. But he failed to seize heaven's will and lost all motivation to remain in the world. Join now. The true God sword needs you." Su Zimo nodded. "Very well. Since you've come this far." Came a sigh from the darkness. Then came a metallic clang, as a flash of sword light shot forth from the void. The true God's sword in the air seemed to sense something and began to tremble, as if a long-lost child had returned home. The sword hummed loudly, shaking the entire dark space into fragments. Darkness shattered, and a beam of sword light tore through the void like a streak of lightning. It shot straight into the body of the true God sword. In that instant, sword energy surged skyward, piercing through the darkness and tearing open the heavens above Order City. Feeling the sword aura, Hu Yanjue outside changed expression. "Success," he muttered. Su Zimo waved his hand and retrieved the now joyous true God sword. What was once a lifeless weapon made of quality materials now brimmed with vitality, transformed in spirit and presence. Su Zimo put the sword away. This blade could not be revealed yet. The secret of the ancient celestial court was too important. If others found out, they would come to seize it without hesitation. He had many things to accomplish and didn't want to waste time. Without the sword god spirit, the dark space dissipated entirely. Su Zimo stepped out from it. Hu Yanjue looked at him with a complicated expression and asked, "You succeeded? You already know the answer." Su Zimo smiled. "True." Hu Yanjue took a deep breath. "I just can't accept it. In this world, no matter how hard you try, some things just aren't meant to be. Enough of the pity party. I'm in a good mood, so you get to live," Su Zimo said. As he and his companions walked away, Hu Yanjue sat alone on the ground, deep in thought. "Master, where to now?" Bone Demon asked. "Void Valley. My true body is still there," Su Zimo said. There were teleportation formations between the 9 cities. Void Valley was closest to Tower City, so Su Zimo planned to take the teleportation array from Order City to Tower City, then head straight to Void Valley. Because of the recent war, the teleportation array in Order City hadn't been used in a long time. The 3 of them didn't have to wait and activated the array directly. As they traveled through space-time, Su Zimo focused on cultivation. After about 7 days, they exited the void and arrived in the bustling, prosperous Tower City. As soon as they landed, Su Zimo felt as if he had entered a completely different world. Unlike the desolate Order City, Tower City was lively, filled with the hustle and bustle of daily life. The streets were packed, and noise echoed everywhere. "Let's head straight to Void Valley," Su Zimo said. As they passed through the main street of Tower City, Su Zimo noticed a notice on a nearby wall. It was a wanted poster. Looking at the portrait on it, Su Zimo saw that it looked exactly like him. Of course, it matched his true body, not his current identity as Lin Qiu, so others wouldn't recognize him. The wanted notice came from the Imperial Throne Sacred Ground. The content essentially declared a bounty on Su Zimo, offering hundreds of thousands of spirit crystals and various vein techniques for any information about him. Anyone who could capture him would be granted entry into the Imperial Throne Sacred Ground and allowed to choose a divine weapon. As Su Zimo looked, several passers-by also gathered to read it. "The Imperial Throne Sacred Ground sure is generous," someone said nearby. "Seriously generous. You don't get it, do you? The Imperial Throne Sacred Ground has 3 Grand Emperors. Their resources are unimaginable. This is nothing to them. That Su Zimo is really unlucky. I wonder how he offended the imperial throne sacred ground. You don't know? Everyone in the Nine Lands has heard by now. This wanted poster was issued by the sect's holy son, Xiang Kunlun. Su Zimo killed his brother-in-law, Feiyu Changhong. Oh, so that's it. I heard Feiyu Changhong's sister, Feiyu Qingyun, is a terrifying figure herself. She and Xiang Kunlun are married now. Talk about a perfect couple, talented and beautiful. Still, this Su Zimo must be pretty skilled. Despite the wanted notice spreading across the middle continent, there's still no news about him. Su Zimo couldn't help but laugh hearing the discussions around him. He had almost forgotten about Feiyu Changhong. Back at the Slaughter God Tower, Feiyu tried to steal his Dark Sky Tiger, so Su Zimo killed him. He'd also fought and destroyed one of Xiang Kunlun's clones. Didn't expect they'd still be hung up on it. Oh well, if we ever cross paths again, I'll just finish him off, Su Zimo muttered. Ungrateful idiots. The trio passed through the main avenue and left Tower City, flying straight toward Void Valley. He wasn't sure if Paimon was still there. They traveled fast and reached Void Valley within half a day. As they passed through the Void Gate, Su Zimo reminded everyone to be cautious of void storms and spatial turbulence. He had no intention of experiencing another forced time travel. Chapter 734 Return to True Martial Sacred Ground. Walking into the Void Valley, it felt different from last time. This time Su Zimo moved with practiced ease. He spread his god soul, sensing the presence of his true body. The Void Valley was vast. Currently, spatial storms hadn't yet appeared, and the turbulence wasn't too intense. So Su Zimo decided to check out the place from before. The three moved swiftly. After nearly an hour of travel, Su Zimo's eyes lit up. I can sense it, he said. Looking southwest, he saw demonic energy slowly drifting in the air. This demonic aura. The seven-face infernal archon paused, sensing a familiar energy. Go meet your old acquaintance, Su Zimo smiled. As the group stepped through the air heading southwest, the infernal aura seemed to sense them as well. They stared at each other from a distance of 1,000 meters. Paimon, the seven-face infernal archon muttered. Ahead was a tall mountain, with Paimon standing atop it, guarding Su Zimo's true body. When the three landed at the mountain's summit, Paimon laughed loudly. Old Seven-Face, you're still alive? Watch your mouth, Paimon. I'm tougher than anyone. The infernal archon snorted. Where did Master find you? Paimon looked at Su Zimo and smiled. Though Su Zimo's body had changed, Paimon could still sense his soul. Su Zimo hadn't replied when the infernal archon cut in. Why are you asking so many questions? What's it got to do with you? Thinking about how he had been trapped inside the demon-locking bell for millions of years, the infernal archon wasn't about to lose face now. All right, enough bickering, Su Zimo waved. Let me return to my original body. I'm still not used to someone else's. The other two stood guard while Su Zimo began the soul transfer. Transferring a god soul into a new body wasn't easy. It depended on whether the body could properly integrate with the soul. Fortunately, Su Zimo was returning to his own original body, so the difficulty was minimal. He sat cross-legged atop the mountain, gradually detaching his soul from Lin Qiu's body. However, he didn't fully detach. If Lin Qiu's body lost all awareness, it would become useless. Su Zimo split off a wisp of soul to control Lin Qiu's body as a remnant soul, while the main soul returned to his own. In that moment, he felt as though he had entered a warm ocean. His soul was bathed in comfort, like a spring breeze or autumn rain, and every pore of his body opened. After several hours of this process, Su Zimo finally felt whole again. He gradually took control of his body, first moving his fingers, then raising his arm, and eventually standing up. Taking a deep breath, he said, Still feels best to be in my own body. Master, are you all right? Paimon asked. I'm fine. Su Zimo shook his head. Master, what's our next move? The infernal archon asked. Wait for heaven's will to descend, and take revenge, Su Zimo replied. Before heading to the outer heavens, we need to expand our foundation. Only then can we survive up there. Regarding destiny, Master should stay alert. The Infernal Archon warned. Our enemies will never sit back and watch you claim heaven's will. Even if their true bodies can't descend, they'll find ways to interfere. I've considered that, Suzimo said with a smile. It's too conspicuous for you to follow me around. If you're interested, go to my god world and train there. We've got nothing better to do anyway. Even though we're Saint Sovereigns, reaching the infinite Tao realm is still far off. We need to comprehend more, the Infernal Archon said. At their level, it wasn't about absorbing more spirit force or tempering the body. It all came down to one word: comprehension. Comprehending the truths of the Tao and forming the Tao fruit at the infinite Tao realm would transform them again. If they couldn't comprehend, then no amount of spiritual energy would help. I'll use the heavenly Tao of my world to aid your comprehension. It should double your progress, Suzimo said. Thank you, Master. The Infernal Archon nodded. With your current strength, Master, you're nearly invincible in this world. If anything comes up, you can summon us any time. Suzimo nodded and took all three into his god world. Bone Demon's strength was comparatively lower, barely at the immortal path. The heavenly Tao would enhance him greatly. Only Suzimo could afford to offer such powerful aid. He looked at Lin Qiu's body nearby. Because of the remnant soul, the two were still connected. But Suzimo's main consciousness controlled the clone. Want to be a main character? Suzimo looked at Lin Qiu and smiled. The god world hadn't yet entered the cultivation era. Suzimo planned to put Lin Qiu into that world for a while. When the new era came, Lin Qiu could help balance the world on Suzimo's behalf. After everyone entered the god world, Suzimo prepared to leave the Void Valley. He wanted to visit the Eastern Continent again. It had been a long time since he returned to the true martial sacred ground. Old friend, we'll fight side by side again, Suzimo said, patting the blade on his back. The blade, Shadow Tyrant, trembled slightly as if expressing joy. Traveling from the Nine Lands region to the Eastern Continent required a long teleportation journey. The two were separated by the Endless Sky Sea. The city closest to the Endless Sky Sea was Crown City, one of the 9 cities. The Supreme Crown was widely recognized as the strongest among the 9 powers of the domain. Suzimo returned to Tower City to use the teleportation formation. Although there was a wanted poster for him, he didn't bother hiding. He swaggered down the street openly. As soon as he stepped into the teleportation formation of Tower City, several men appeared around the plaza. You sure it's him? One of them asked. Absolutely. The image on the poster is clear. I won't forget it, another replied. Crown City, huh? Looks like the Imperial Throne's bounty is ours for the taking. Quick! Report this to them before someone else does. Big bro, why didn't we just grab him? That bounty would have been huge. Use your brain. Someone powerful enough to be wanted by the Imperial Throne? We wouldn't last a single move against him. Don't be greedy. You're right. Big bro wise as always, the others flattered. The distance between Tower City and Crown City was substantial. Crown City sat on the edge of the domain by the Endless Sky Sea. After about half a month of travel, Suzimo finally emerged from the teleportation formation. Chapter 735, Flower Ball Marriage Proposal in Crown City. Located in the Skiluan region, the Imperial Throne Sacred Ground sat at its very center, the most prosperous area. From the time the Celestial Emperor founded the lineage, through the reigns of the North Emperor and the Thunder Emperor, 3 generations of emperors had bestowed their power and legacy upon it. They had become the overlords of the entire Skiluan region, and even one of the top sects on the Middle Continent. At this moment, within the Imperial Throne Sacred Ground, Mount Kunlun sat at the northernmost edge of the sect. It was the peak where each generation's holy sun resided. The mountain soared into the clouds, and from a distance, it appeared shrouded in mist, majestic like a celestial mountain. But if one got closer, they would see that the mountain was very real. It was shrouded in a mysterious yin-yang force, splitting it in half, one side black, the other white. At the summit there was a Taoist arena. The ground was similarly divided by yin and yang, with thunderclouds swirling above. Xiang Kunlun sat precisely at the boundary of the yin-yang divide. At this moment, an immense aura surrounded him. His true fate was veiled within the mist behind him, and the powerful presence suppressed all of Mount Kunlun. After a long time, he opened his eyes, a flash of divine light flickering. He took a deep breath, and streams of white mist flowed from his eyes, nose, and mouth. Holy Sun! A guard from Mount Kunlun approached respectfully. Someone outside the sect reports knowing the whereabouts of the man we've been hunting. Hearing this, Xiang Kunlun turned around, pressure and killing intent flickering in his eyes. Bring him here, Xiang Kunlun ordered. As the guard departed, footsteps sounded nearby. A noble and stunningly beautiful woman walked up from the other side of the mountain. She wore a purple robe with a thin silk overlay. Her long hair draped down her back. Her brows were like blades, and her eyes bright with spirit. At her waist hung 2 red willow moon blades. She walked with light, graceful steps. Husband. Feiyu Qingyun smiled as she spoke. Qingyun, let me tell you some good news. Xiang Kunlun, usually stern-faced, now smiled. What good news? Feiyu Qingyun took out a silk handkerchief and gently wiped the sweat from Xiang Kunlun's forehead. You need to balance work and rest. You're pushing yourself too hard. I have no choice. With heaven's will about to form, every genius in the world is formidable. I can't let the sect's elders down. Xiang Kunlun smiled and shook his head. You'll find out soon enough what the surprise is. The guards soon brought a group of people up Mount Kunlun. They looked around like toads seeing the outside world for the first time, wide-eyed and curious. Big bro. Don't talk. Stay quiet. The leader whispered. He knew what kind of place this was. One wrong move and they'd all be dead. When they reached the mountaintop and saw the young man sitting in the center of the arena, they were overwhelmed by the oppressive aura. The youth seemed like a being of primordial chaos, every movement exuding immense might. My lord. The leader quickly led the group in kneeling. Speak. Where did you see the man? Xiang Kunlun asked calmly. We saw him in Tower City, but he used a teleportation array to go to Crown City, the leader quickly replied. If my lord moves quickly, you can still catch him there. Take them away. If the news is true, I will reward you. If you've deceived me, you know what happens? Xiang Kunlun waved his hand. As the group was led down the mountain, Feiyu Qingyun said, Could they be talking about the man who killed Little Hong? Indeed. Xiang Kunlun nodded. With heavens will forming soon. I don't want you distracted by anything. Feiyu Qingyun sighed. Little Hong was spoiled by me. He was always arrogant outside. No matter. If our imperial throne's sacred ground can't protect our own disciples, Xiang Kunlun snorted coldly. Then we'd have no face left in the Skilyuan region. Husband, why don't I take care of it? You focus on cultivating and preparing for heaven's will, Feiyu Qingyun suggested after thinking for a moment.
No.
I won't be at ease if you go. Xiang Kunlun immediately shook his head. My clone fought him before. He's no pushover. Don't worry. This time, I'll personally kill him. Xiang Kunlun's gaze turned toward the direction of Crown City, deep and piercing. By the time Su Zimo arrived in Crown City, it was already afternoon. The city's prosperity exceeded expectations. The streets bustled with people. The liveliest part was a lion dance performance. The lions paraded from one end of the street to the other, drums echoing throughout the road. Everyone come look. The city lord's daughter is throwing a flower ball for marriage today. No way. I heard Miss Crown was engaged since childhood. Why would she publicly hold a flower ball ceremony? How should I know? But if someone can marry into the Crown family, they'd rise like a phoenix. Su Zimo listened to the chatter around him and shook his head slightly. So this is Crown City. Crown City had a long history, rivaling many imperial lineages. Back then, the Crown monarch unified the North and founded the Supreme Crown. It became a household name across the land. Some even secretly called him Crown Emperor. Unfortunately, he lost the battle for heaven's will against the North Emperor of the Imperial Throne Sacred Ground. The Supreme Crown never produced an emperor. However, after generations of accumulation, and with the Nine Lands region backed by the resource-rich Endless Sea, the Supreme Crown had become one of the region's most powerful forces. Could now rival imperial lineages. Su Zimo walked along the city's main street, which was packed with people. Besides the lion dance, it was nearly impossible to move forward. At the center where 4 streets intersected, a central plaza, a flower ball marriage ceremony was taking place. The surrounding streets were packed. Besides those competing for the flower ball, many had come just to watch. Realizing he wouldn't get through anytime soon, Su Zimo entered a nearby restaurant. Upstairs, all the street-facing seats were already taken. Only a few random seats remained, and he picked one at random. "What a grand event," a burly man nearby said while drinking. "I heard the city lord's daughter is a peerless beauty, but I've never seen her myself." "What, Wong Scarface, you interested?" someone teased. "A toad that doesn't want swan meat isn't a proper toad," the big man snorted. "If it were a few years ago, I might have gone for it. Not now." Su Zimo smiled and looked through the crowd. His gaze landed on the tall platform ahead. It stood over 10 meters high. Atop it, a middle-aged man in a blue robe radiating immense power walked up. Chapter 736, A Hasty Marriage Proposal. Su Zimo's gaze fell on the tall platform ahead. As the middle-aged man in the blue robe walked up, the crowd quieted slightly. "The Lord of Crown City is here. Everyone quiet down and listen to what he has to say. Get ready to grab the flower ball." City Lord Qin Feng walked onto the stage with a commanding presence, his brows slightly furrowed with concern. "Everyone, I won't say much about why we're gathered here," Qin Feng said loudly. "We will throw down 10 flower balls. Anyone who catches one will enter the martial arena to compete. 10 people will battle. My daughter will observe in secret and then choose her favored husband." "What does that mean? 10 people fight, but the outcome doesn't decide who wins? Miss Qin chooses herself?" someone whispered. "Then we can join too," the crowd shouted excitedly. Previously, many feared their cultivation wasn't high enough to compete. Now that selection wasn't based on strength but Miss Qin's personal choice, everyone became eager. People cracked their knuckles and stared intently at the martial stage. 10 guards in red robes with flowers stepped forward, each holding a large flower ball. "I hereby declare the Qin clan's marriage contest officially begins." As Qin Feng's voice fell, the 10 flower balls were tossed high into the air. Each ball traced a graceful arc, varying in height and distance. "Grab them!" With a shout, the crowd went wild. Qin Feng had set a rule. Once someone caught a ball, others could not snatch it. Otherwise, fighting over it could lead to casualties and chaos in the city. "I got it!" someone shouted with joy. Seeing the flower ball in his arms, the others gave up and moved to chase the rest. Su Zimo sat on the second floor of an inn, drinking tea and watching the chaos with interest. Suddenly, a bright red blur flew in. A flower ball flew in from outside the second floor, landing directly on the table in front of Su Zimo. The second floor went silent. Everyone looked curiously at Su Zimo. No one on the second floor made a move, since most were just watching the fun. They were either too old, already married, or didn't want to get involved. "No one wants it?" Su Zimo picked up the flower ball and smiled. "It's yours, young master. Why not give it a try?" someone nearby said. "Yeah, go for it," the burly man from earlier shouted. "Others can't even get one. This is fate." "That's right. I heard marrying into the Qin clan not only makes you the city lord's son-in-law, but also grants access to the Thundercloud Cave. That's a rare opportunity." "Thundercloud Cave?" someone who didn't understand asked. "Didn't Crown Monarch set the rule that only Qin clan members could enter the Thundercloud Cave? Why allow outsiders in?" "I don't know. But if you marry Miss Qin, aren't you part of the Qin clan?" Hearing the chatter on the second floor, Su Zimo fell into thought. He hadn't planned to participate, but the mention of Thundercloud Cave piqued his interest. He looked down. The other 9 flower balls had mostly been claimed. Before he could say anything, Qin Feng shouted from the stage, "All right, the 10 people who caught the flower balls, please come to the platform. Hurry! Maybe Miss Qin will pick you. You could be on the fast track to success," people nearby urged. When Su Zimo and the other 9 stood on the platform, Qin Feng's gaze swept over them with hidden pressure. After inspecting them, he waved his hand. Accompanied by 2 maids, a woman in a pink dress walked up the stage with graceful steps. She had long hair draped behind her and wore a veil that covered half her face. Only her bright, expressive eyes were visible. Her slender waist was tied with a pink silk belt. She calmly glanced at the 10 men, then sat down beside the platform. "Since you caught the flower ball, there's no backing out," Qin Feng said. "Now, you'll fight in pairs until one person remains standing. But I must make one thing clear. If my daughter doesn't fancy any of you, we'll throw the flower balls again, and you'll be eliminated." "Understood." Everyone nodded. "You may choose your opponents," Qin Feng added. "No need for that." Su Zimo waved his hand. Spirit force burst from his palm, knocking the other 9 off the stage. The crowd was stunned. They had expected an intense battle. "You ambushed us. We didn't even start," someone shouted in frustration. "You really think any of you are my match?" Su Zimo said. "If we start over, I won't hold back next time. Life and death won't be considered." Everyone fell silent. They had protested to save face, but they knew deep down they stood no chance. "Schwanger, what do you think?" Qin Feng turned to his daughter and asked with a smile. "Him?" Qin Shuang pointed at Su Zimo and said softly. "Are you sure?" Qin Feng asked. "Do I have another choice? Whether it's 10 or 100, what difference does it make?" Qin Shuang replied, then turned and left. "Don't blame your father. I'm doing this for your own good." Qin Feng sighed as he watched her go. He then turned to the nearby guards and said, "You handle things here. Take the son-in-law back to the manor later." With that, Qin Feng also departed. "Son-in-law, please come with us back to the manor." Several guards approached Su Zimo. As the group left, the onlookers all had strange expressions. This whole thing felt like thunder without rain. I heard the city lord dotes on his daughter. Why was this marriage proposal so rushed? Who knows? Also, wasn't the holy son of Supreme Tower engaged to Miss Qin since childhood? Why suddenly hold this contest? Su Zimo couldn't hear the crowd's gossip. He followed the guards to the Qin Manor. The manor was vast with grand architecture. Just past the red gates, an old man in a grayish-yellow long robe approached. "You may all leave. I'll take care of the new son-in-law," the old man instructed. "Yes, Steward Long." The guards replied quickly and left. "Son-in-law, allow me to introduce myself. I'm the head steward of the Qin Manor," the old man said with a smile. "You can call me Uncle Long. If you have any questions, feel free to ask." Chapter 737 City Lord's Strange Mansion. "May I ask how to address the young master?" Steward Long asked with a smile. Su Zimo replied. "Does the young master have any clan?" Steward Long continued to ask. "My parents are still alive, but I've been wandering the world as a rogue cultivator for so long. I haven't returned home in years," Su Zimo said. "If there's a chance, you should invite your parents to stay here in the Qin residence," Steward Long said as he led Su Zimo into a courtyard. "This is where you'll be staying. Everything has already been prepared. I live in the courtyard next door. If you need anything, feel free to find me." Su Zimo nodded slightly. As Steward Long was about to leave, Su Zimo turned and asked, "Uncle Long, I heard that becoming the son-in-law grants access to the Thundercloud Cave. Is that true?" "The Lord did say that. For the details, you'll have to ask him yourself," Steward Long replied with a smile. "Then nothing else for now," Su Zimo nodded. He could sense there was something the Qin clan was hiding from him, but he couldn't be bothered to dig into it. He just wanted to see the Thundercloud Cave. Or rather, He planned to visit every place related to thunder in the coming days. The courtyard was rather simple. There was a large, sturdy northern poplar tree in the center of the yard. A cold wind blew through, and a few dead leaves slowly drifted down in the breeze. Suzimo walked into the house. The room was clean, clearly well-maintained. He wasn't in a rush. As night fell, he simply lay on the bed and went to sleep. After all, the people from the city lord's mansion would come find him sooner or later. His consciousness entered the true fate world. The seven-face infernal archon and the others were training within it, everything proceeding as usual without any disturbance. Suzimo began cultivating as well, until dusk, when he felt a tap on his shoulder. His consciousness returned to the outside world. The room was pitch black and completely silent. Suzimo glanced toward the bedhead and saw a woman standing there quietly, staring at him. "What is it?" Suzimo sat up in bed, trying to light the lamp. He recognized the woman. It was Qin Shuang, the Qin clan's daughter who had appeared on the stage earlier, his supposed bride-to-be. "Don't light the lamp," Qin Shuang said calmly. What are you trying to do?" Suzimo pulled his clothes tighter, nervously asking. "Shameless. What are you thinking?" Qin Shuang said angrily upon seeing his reaction. "If you want to live, you should leave the Qin residence." "Why should I leave?" Suzimo calmly lit the lamp in the room and smiled. "I finally latched onto your father's big tree. I'm about to make it big." "You really think things come that easily?" Qin Shuang said coldly. "I'm not afraid. And now that you're my wife, shouldn't you take off your veil and let me have a look?" Suzimo said with a smile. "Don't worry, wifey. No matter how ugly you are, I'll still treat you well." "You're impossible to reason with," Qin Shuang replied and stormed out angrily. "Why not just stay tonight and keep me company?" Suzimo called after her. Her footsteps quickened even more. "I've warned you. If you don't listen, don't blame me." Watching her leave, Suzimo chuckled. "Interesting. Very interesting." Meanwhile, in the Qin residence, Qin Feng was seated at the head of the main hall. Steward Long stood respectfully behind him. "He hasn't run off, has he?" Qin Feng asked. "Miss secretly went to his room, but he hasn't run yet." Steward Long shook his head. "That girl Shuang-er," Qin Feng sighed. "Keep an eye on him. Even if you have to tie him up with rope, don't let him leave." "Understood." Steward Long nodded. After hesitating for a moment, he said, "But I don't think Miss likes him. Whether she likes him or not doesn't matter. What matters is that she chose him herself. Understand?" Qin Feng fell silent for a moment before saying, "No matter what, I won't let Shuang-er die in front of me. What a pity for Mississippi. She's been kind-hearted since childhood." Steward Long shook his head and left the hall. The night passed without incident. Suzimo noticed that after entering the Qin residence, no one came to manage or question him. They simply dumped him in the courtyard and left him alone. Early in the morning, servants brought breakfast to the courtyard. The breakfast was lavish and made entirely of rare herbs. Suzimo glanced at it. 9-yong flower, scorching sungrass, 7-star fire flower, blazing sun leaf. All of it was made from fire-attributed herbs. "Are they trying to burn me alive?" Suzimo muttered. "Young master, the Lord instructed that you must finish it all," the servant said. Suzimo smiled. Under the servant's watchful eyes, he finished the meal bit by bit. Normally, with his physique, fire-type herbs wouldn't have any effect on him. But this time he felt something different. After ingesting the various herbs, they triggered a reaction. His body burned with heat, as if a fire was raging inside. The flame circulated through his body along his meridians. From burning hot to warm and comfortable, Suzimo let out a light breath. After the servants left, with nothing else to do, Suzimo wandered around the Qin residence. He casually asked a servant, "Where is your master?" "Greetings, young master." The servant bowed quickly. "The master is in the garden." Following the directions, Suzimo walked for a while and heard the sound of beautiful music. The melody was clear and joyful, flowing gently like water under a small bridge, felt peaceful. But Su Zimo could hear a faint sadness within it. Not in the tune itself, but in the heart of the person playing it. As he walked further, the area was filled with blooming flowers of all kinds, vibrant and in full bloom. At the heart of this floral sea stood a pavilion. A gentle breeze passed, and inside the pavilion were a woman and a middle-aged man. The woman wore a white long dress. The hem of her skirt stretched out a meter along the floor, blending seamlessly with the white sea of flowers. Before her was a harp. It was Qin Shuang, focused intently on playing the harp. Qin Feng stood at the edge of the pavilion with his hands behind his back, listening quietly. As Su Zimo approached, Qin Feng suddenly opened his eyes. A wave of pressure burst forth from him. In the next moment, his figure flickered and appeared on the path outside the sea of flowers. "What are you doing here?" Qin Feng asked coldly, glancing at Su Zimo. "Looking for you," Su Zimo replied. Chapter 738, Thundercloud Cave. "What do you want from me?" Qin Feng asked curiously. "Since we're not married yet, it seems a little premature to call you father-in-law." Su Zimo scratched his head and smiled. "I want to visit Thundercloud Cave. Could you take me there?" "Don't worry. I never go back on my word," Qin Feng replied indifferently. "In 3 days, I'll have Schwanger accompany you." 3 days? That's fine. I've got nothing else to do lately." Su Zimo nodded. "Since you're here, why not spend some time with Schwanger?" Qin Feng said, then turned and walked away with his hands behind his back. Qin Shuang continued playing her zither, ignoring the two of them entirely. Su Zimo smiled and walked through the sea of flowers toward the pavilion. With a sudden twang, one of the zither strings snapped, and the music stopped abruptly. There's clearly a path over there. Why did you walk through the flowers?" Qin Shuang glanced at Su Zimo, displeased. "I didn't notice." Su Zimo smiled, casually plucked a flower from nearby, and tossed it onto the zither. "For you." Then he leaned back against a chair in the pavilion. "You're really shameless," Qin Shuang said, helpless against him. "Play me a song." Su Zimo waved his hand. A string broke. "How am I supposed to play?" Qin Shuang said irritably. "Only one string broke. The others still work. That just means you're not good enough." Su Zimo shook his head slightly. "Do you really plan on staying in our Qin residence?" Qin Shuang was silent for a moment, then asked. "Of course. Why wouldn't I?" Su Zimo responded. "I don't want you to die because of me. I'd feel guilty for the rest of my life," Qin Shuang said. "I've already made myself clear. You should understand." "I understand. But I'm not leaving." Su Zimo shook his head. Before he could finish, Qin Shuang suddenly let out a startled cry. Without any warning, she collapsed to the ground. Her entire body trembled, and a chill spread outward from her, freezing everything in its path. The freezing was incredibly fast. Within moments, the entire pavilion was encased in ice, and the frost began spreading to the sea of flowers. Su Zimo shattered the ice around him and stepped forward. When he reached Qin Shuang, she was already encased in a thick layer of ice. The surrounding cold grew more intense, even making Su Zimo feel a bit chilled. Before he could make sense of the situation, a roar came from nearby. "Step aside. If you want to live, don't touch her." Qin Feng flew in from a distance, walking on air. His powerful Empyrean Meridian aura suppressed everything around him. With a wave of his hand, he shattered all the ice and took out 5 fiery red stones, placing them on Qin Shuang's limbs and forehead. Soon, the cold air began to stabilize and fade. Qin Shuang slowly opened her eyes. Her face was deathly pale, as if she'd just returned from the gates of hell. "Father," she whispered. "Don't speak." Qin Feng pulled out several more flaming red pills and helped her take them. Her complexion finally began to improve. "Go back and rest." Qin Feng let out a deep sigh of relief. Without acknowledging Su Zimo, he picked up Qin Shuang and left. "That must have been an innate physique," Su Zimo muttered to himself. Long ago, Su Zimo had read a book called Annals of the Primordial Heartlands, in the true martial sacred ground. He'd come across it while researching the red myriad Tao lotus for the God Emperor. In this world, physiques are generally divided into innate and acquired. Acquired physiques are battle physiques. Merging with a battle physique enhances strength. But battle physiques are limited. Only 100 exist, some undiscovered, some already possessed. Besides battle physiques, there are innate physiques, those a person is born with. While not as powerful as battle physiques, they far surpass normal physiques. And because innate physiques are highly compatible with their owners, they have enormous growth potential. Su Zimo guessed that Qin Shuang had lost control of her innate physique, resulting in backlash. Her physique likely had something to do with ice. The stones and pills Qin Feng used were all of extreme yang and fire attributes, clearly to suppress her innate physique. Thinking this through, Su Zimo suddenly had a few other ideas, piecing things together in his mind. But he didn't expose anything. After exploring Thundercloud Cave, he planned to leave. Back in his courtyard, he waited for the next 3 days. During those days, Su Zimo noticed the fire attribute herbs in his meals grew stronger and stronger. Moreover, the herbs were clearly selected in a complementary sequence, each enhancing the effects of the previous, igniting the fire within his body. Fortunately, his physique was strong. Anyone else would have been burned alive from within. 3 days later, Qin Feng brought Qin Shuang and Steward Long to Su Zimo's courtyard. "Today we're going to Thundercloud Cave?" Su Zimo asked. "Get ready. Let's go." Qin Feng nodded. "No need to prepare. Let's just go," Su Zimo replied. He glanced at Qin Shuang. She seemed to have recovered, her face rosy and her condition stable. Su Zimo followed them as Qin Feng led them through several long corridors to the back mountain of the Qin residence. The back mountain was specifically built for Thundercloud Cave. It was essentially a restricted area, no other clan members in sight. Walking along the mountain path, Su Zimo saw many hyenas along the way. They guarded the area but retreated upon seeing Qin Feng. When the group reached a cave at the rear of the mountain, Qin Feng stopped. "Steward Long, stay here. I'll take them inside," Qin Feng ordered. He took a key from his storage ring and pressed it into a groove on the cave's stone door. With a rumbling sound, the stone door split in two and slowly opened. The three entered, and the stone door closed behind them. It was pitch black inside with countless branching paths. Qin Feng led the way, saying, "Thundercloud Cave was left by our ancestors. It's extremely beneficial for cultivating the Tao of Thunder, and can also be used for body refinement. I'm taking you to the Heavenly Thunder Pool." As they walked, Su Zimo noticed Qin Shuang's face was full of sorrow. Following several twists and turns, they finally arrived in a room filled with crackling lightning. The sound of thunder echoed around them. Ahead, there was a thunder pool. Chapter 739, Let's Make This Our Bridal Chamber. Around the room, deep purple lightning spread across the walls. Before them, it was as if thunder had gathered and was violently erupting. The three of them formed a protective barrier with spiritual energy and walked into the room. Su Zimo looked at the pool. Compared to it, the rest of the room's lightning was insignificant. The deep purple lightning was so dense it nearly became thunder water. Countless bolts of lightning seemed to possess life, transforming within the thunder pool into all kinds of creatures. At times, they became silver-white dragons. At times, purple fish leaping through the dragon gate. At other times, giant beasts roaring toward the heavens. This thunder pool spanned tens of square meters and contained endless transformations. "Shuanger, it's up to you now," Qin Feng said, giving Qin Shuang a deep look before turning to leave the room. As he stepped out, he waved his right hand. The lightning in the room responded to his command, swirling into a massive thunder gate that sealed off the entrance. "Come," Qin Shuang said softly. She then gently removed the veil from her face. As the pink veil fell to the ground, a stunningly beautiful face was revealed. She appeared very slim, with an oval face, light makeup, and eyes full of spirit. A tall nose bridge, willow leaf eyebrows, and cherry lips with a heavy red tint. She seemed to blend innocence and sensuality into one form. Contradictory, yet uniquely captivating. "What are you doing?" Su Zimo glanced at Qin Shuang and asked flatly. Seeing that Su Zimo had no reaction to her face, a flicker of surprise passed through Qin Shuang's eyes. "Today, the two of us will become husband and wife right here," Qin Shuang said calmly. "Tonight is our bridal chamber." As she spoke, she began unbuttoning her long dress. As the dress slid down, Su Zimo shook his head and smiled. "What are you laughing at?" Qin Shuang asked, confused. "Don't mess around. Put it back on." Su Zimo waved his hand and walked straight toward the thunder pool. "What are you doing?" Qin Shuang froze, her face turning crimson as she quickly put her dress back on. She followed behind Su Zimo and saw him examining the edge of the pool. "What are you doing?" Qin Shuang asked shyly. She lowered her head, embarrassed by what she had just done, not daring to meet his eyes. "Where's the source of the lightning in this thundercloud cave?" Su Zimo asked. "I don't know. This is my first time here," Qin Shuang replied. "You think your dad's eavesdropping outside?" Su Zimo glanced at the door and chuckled. What are you thinking?" Qin Shuang lightly smacked his arm. "Sometimes you're serious, other times you're messing with me. I'm going into the thunder pool. You stay up here," Su Zimo said. "Hey, I'm going with you," Qin Shuang quickly called out. "You can handle this lightning?" Su Zimo asked. Qin Shuang took out a purple token from her storage ring. "This is the Thundercloud Cave token. As long as we have it, the lightning here won't harm us," Qin Shuang said, her face still red. "If you had something like this, why didn't you show it earlier?" Su Zimo snatched the token and examined it. It was unclear what material it was made of, but it seemed to contain a terrifying power. "Interesting," Su Zimo smiled. "I'm starting to feel lucky I came here. Not sure if it's luck or good judgment." "What are you talking about?" Qin Shuang asked, puzzled. "Why would your dad give you something this important?" Su Zimo asked. "Well, he originally wanted us to. Qin Shuang's face flushed even deeper. She lowered her head nearly to the ground, clutching the hem of her skirt tightly, and replied in a voice as soft as a mosquito. "To consummate our marriage in the thunder pool." "Your dad really knows how to plan things," Su Zimo commented. "No, it's for my own good," Qin Shuang quickly explained. "All right, let's go." Su Zimo grabbed her right hand and jumped into the thunder pool. As soon as the two entered, the entire pool boiled over. A massive thunder dragon formed from lightning surged within the pool, its eerie eyes staring directly at them. But as the token released a mysterious power, the surrounding lightning gradually calmed. That power also formed a protective barrier, shielding them from harm. Inside the pool, it felt like a sea of thunder. Everywhere they looked, lightning transformed into countless things. Pale purple arcs flashed all around, and the crackling never stopped. A storm of thunder swept through. Their bodies gradually sank downward, and the view opened up around them. "What are you looking for?" Qin Shuang asked curiously. "Not sure if it's here, just taking a look," Su Zimo replied. "You came to our Qin residence for this thundercloud cave, didn't you?" Qin Shuang asked, catching on. "Everyone gets what they want. Didn't you come for my body?" Su Zimo laughed. "Huh? Who wants your body? You never act serious." Qin Shuang snorted. "The secrets of Thundercloud Cave are only known to my father. You might as well ask him. They say our ancestors built this place a long time ago and left something extremely important here. I don't trust your father, but you are barely passable," Su Zimo said. As the two followed the thunder path deeper, they eventually reached another cave. It was sealed shut with a massive door, covered in ancient seals and bound with chains. "No way through," Qin Shuang said. "Step back a bit," Su Zimo gestured. He raised his right fist, surging with the power of creation. "Break!" With a shout, his punch shattered the thunder before it, striking hard against the seal. With a deafening boom, the sea of thunder erupted skyward. The seal resisted for a moment before shattering under Su Zimo's punch. Even the door burst open with a hole. The entire sea of thunder churned wildly. The token in Su Zimo's hand began to tremble. A torrent of thunder burst from the broken entrance. Qin Shuang froze in place, terrified as the flood threatened to engulf her. Su Zimo suddenly appeared before her, grabbed her arm, and threw her out of the way. The thunder flood then swallowed Su Zimo completely. "No!" Qin Shuang screamed. Chapter 740 Underworld Ice Physique. As Qin Shuang screamed, Su Zimo's body was blasted away by the torrent. When the surge of lightning finally dissipated, Su Zimo's figure crashed heavily against a nearby wall and then collapsed to the ground. Qin Shuang rushed over, sat beside him, and gently placed his head on her lap. "Wake up! Don't scare me," she said while gently shaking him. Su Zimo weakly opened his eyes. "How do you feel now?" Qin Shuang asked, her voice trembling with tears. "You're worried about me?" Su Zimo smiled. "You got like this to save me. If you really died, I'd feel guilty forever," Qin Shuang replied. "Just guilty?" Su Zimo coughed a few times and asked, exhausted. "Don't overthink. Besides, you're already like this. Why worry about such things?" Qin Shuang lowered her head and said, "How are you feeling now? I'll take you out and have my father treat you. I'm extremely tired, and I can barely breathe. Feels like I'm suffocating," Su Zimo said weakly. "You can't breathe." Qin Shuang panicked and quickly asked, "Then what do we do?" "Artificial respiration. Don't you know how?" Su Zimo asked. But men and women should keep their distance." Qin Shuang hesitated. "Didn't you just offer yourself to me? And now you hesitate," Su Zimo said. "Can you really bear to see me die?" Qin Shuang fell silent for a moment. Then, she gently closed her eyes, her eyelashes trembling, and lowered her head towards Su Zimo. A soft fragrance filled the air. The closer she leaned in, the more clearly the scent of a maiden wafted through. Seeing her expression like she was going to her doom, Su Zimo couldn't help but laugh. Why are you laughing?" Qin Shuang's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. She had gathered all her courage, and now she felt like a deflated balloon. Her face burned hot. "All right, I won't tease you. We've got more important things to do," Su Zimo said, standing up. You... Qin Shuang stared, stunned. "You're fine. What? Were you hoping something was wrong with me?" Su Zimo said as he walked toward the entrance of the cave. After that thunderous torrent vanished, the cave had fallen into darkness and silence. "You're being weird again," Qin Shuang mumbled. But she found it strange, although Su Zimo often teased her, when it came to actually doing anything, he never did. It was like he just enjoyed provoking her. She looked at his side profile and thought about how he had risked his life to save her. Somehow, she suddenly felt he was kind of handsome. "Never seen a good-looking guy before?" Su Zimo asked as he walked ahead into the cave. "You're not good-looking," Qin Shuang replied flusteredly and hurried after him. The cave was pitch black, and without light, the two could only feel their way forward. After walking for a while, Su Zimo saw several forks in the path ahead. "Which way?" Qin Shuang asked. "Whichever the little rooster lands on." Su Zimo pointed with his hand and said, "Let's go right." After choosing the right path, they found the ground and walls had turned blue. It glowed with a soft bioluminescence, and their vision became clearer. "This is so beautiful," Qin Shuang said cheerfully, walking ahead. Just then, a loud boom echoed as lightning cracked all around. The dreamy scenery instantly changed, and thunder filled the space. The deeper they went, the denser and more terrifying the lightning became. "Way to jinx it," Su Zimo muttered. Qin Shuang gripped Su Zimo's arm tightly, afraid to let go. "Why is your cultivation so low?" "The Qin clan is the strongest among the 9 cities," Su Zimo asked. "You're the only daughter. Shouldn't you be heavily nurtured?" Su Zimo could tell Qin Shuang was only at the Paragon Meridian realm, which didn't match her status. "Actually, I cultivate very quickly," I was always top of my generation, Qin Shuang said, a little disappointed. But I don't dare to cultivate. Why? Su Zimo asked. You saw it in the garden earlier. My body is special. The stronger I get, the more likely the cold energy resurfaces, Qin Shuang said. Even without cultivating these years, it's getting harder to suppress. You've got an innate physique, Su Zimo said. My father has been searching for help all these years. They say I have the underworld ice physique. I won't live past 25, Qin Shuang said with a bitter smile. A year ago, a powerful immortal gave my father a secret method, saying it could cure my condition. Let me guess, this method has something to do with me, Su Zimo said. Men are naturally yang-aligned, like blazing fire. With medicinal support, the fire can burn endlessly and form a furnace. Qin Shuang said, if I combine with such a man and absorb his furnace, I can suppress my underworld ice physique. Each man can suppress it for a year. After 49 years, I can completely rid myself of its dangers. Then I could master this congenital power with limitless potential. That's what the expert said. How many years have you suppressed it? Su Zimo asked. What are you saying? You're the first, Qin Shuang quickly explained. A woman should only give herself to someone she loves. I didn't want to combine with random men, but I also didn't want father to worry, so I agreed to the marriage contest to choose someone I liked. No wonder you tried to get me to leave that day, Su Zimo realized. If I have to live that way, I'd rather die, Qin Shuang said. I only pretended to agree so my father wouldn't worry. You've had a rough time, Su Zimo smiled. What about you? You don't seem like an ordinary person, Qin Shuang asked. Me? My story's too long. So long I can't even tell who I really am anymore. Su Zimo shook his head. As they talked, they reached the end of the passage. Exiting the narrow cave, the view opened up. Ahead was a large, spacious cavern. On both sides of the cave, 2 winged dragons lay on massive boulders. Each dragon was dozens of meters long, with steel-like wings covering their bodies. At the head of each dragon were 2 short, purple horns. They lay there enjoying the lightning that bathed them. Above them floated a terrifying purple orb.